to you, and welcome to the Paladins Console League. My name is Gormizer, and we have an action-packed day for you in store. But to help me get through this first dice segment, as well as to dissect some of these matches that we're going to see throughout the day, I'm going to introduce my buddy Kresnik sitting on the desk with me.
I liked this.
Am I dissecting?
That's
actually the scientific way to dissect. If you're in like science class right now,
I'm very glad
going
I was
in to dissect a frog, you do this.
I'm very glad it was not in your biology class.
Well, it was just me. Everyone else got like little knives and little things. I just, I don't know. Maybe the teacher didn't like me. Either way, it's going to be an interesting day to come through once again. A lot of these teams are kind of fighting for their first place spot, and some regions are fighting in general for everything. But we have the schedule for today that we can go ahead and look at so we know what specifics we're going to be looking at. And it's going to be Arial, Arise, and Ehrenmanner, the first one to go up. Flashpoint and Stush going offline for today. And I swear if Flashpoint lose a map, I'm going to be interested in that. Bust Down and Effect is going to be offline for Xbox Europe. Cyclone going to be playing against Vroom Vroom. Last time I believe Vroom Vroom even winning that matchup, so that's going to be an interesting one. Onslaught, StreamX, and then later in the day, Cats on Mars and Wasted Potential. A lot of interesting ones. Right now, I think Xbox Europe is kind of where everyone's eyes are, just because with Cyclone having lost a set now, no one really knows what's going to happen. I think 3 teams have kind of taken sets off of each other, whereas everywhere else has a definitive one, right? And looking at the region we're going to first, it's been Flashpoint. They kind of dominate this region. They really don't lose too often, and I think the standings right now will say that. They're 3-0. I believe last time they only lost 2 total maps with a plus-minus 34. But our eyes should be turning towards that 2 and 3 spot because that's the matchup today.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of the battle for second place. I mean, last time these teams played, we didn't get to see the game, but Ehrenmanner took it 3-1, I believe. So could be interesting. Arial have shown they can fight it out. They were able to take that map last time, and I believe they were second place last phase, too.
Yes.
So, they've shown they can beat this team, and now that Ehrenmanner are kind of resurging, it's interesting to see how Arial Arise are gonna take this and try to kind of fight back after week 2.
And that's the interesting thing. I mean, Arial Arise was one of those teams, again, that was very consistent in their second place. Like, they gave Flashpoint some trouble. Obviously not enough to be able to take them down, but enough to make the matches interesting when they were playing. And for the most part, there was no contest between second and third, second and fourth during the first phase of this year. But this time, Ehrenmanner has been a little bit more consistent. Of course, if you look at them, you have Ernest Gedden, you have IT, both players who have been on for a while. Whereas the only one who's really stayed from last phase to this phase was Alex Kidd on Arial Arise. And he's still making huge splashes when it comes down to the play that he's bringing, but it's not been enough on just his own. So today's going to be kind of the question is, what can they do together?
Yeah, and it's definitely they're definitely not looking as good as they did last time. I mean, they were against Stush, a team that was able to take maps off of Flashpoint last time, but they won 3-2, I believe, against Stush before. So, again, they have to find something that was working for them, maybe get that synergy that they had, or try to rebuild the synergy that they had last phase and take that moving forward. So, again, I want to see how they can do it. Now.
I think that's going to be kind of the question of the day is what exactly they can do and what exactly they can accomplish. Map bands are going to be coming through. Frog Isle and Ascension Peak going to be the first 2. And then the second 2 popping up, Serpent Beach and Stone Keep. So a lot of kind of standard maps taken out, which does open my mind to the more fringe picks. Ascension Peak is one that would normally come to my mind, but I think it was taken off as well. So you're looking at like Warder's Gate still being available, some of these other ones that
Bizarre.
Don't typically come up first.
Yeah, and with Serpent Beach, maybe they'll try to stay away from vertical maps. And Jaguar Falls. Well, they didn't ban Jaguar Bright. We're going to see both of them more than likely. But Jaguar,
as the first 2 maps,
a very standard map, very flat. A lot of things can be run on it. So some teams like it because to start off a set, if you have kind of a pocket strategy you can pull out that no team is expecting, it's the most flexible map to have those kind of things in your pocket to pull out.
This has been the fun one. So the last few weeks, even though this is probably one of the maps that I would argue, flanks are good on just as normal.
Yeah, of course.
But also if you add a Torvald to them, they become incredible on Jag Falls. This is one of the few maps that I feel like we've seen Torvald not picked or banned on several times. You can see Tyra, Victor, Talus, and Atlas. Talus Atlas is a very, it's almost tongue twister.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically the same letters. There's just a U. One U in Talus, but not surprising bans-wise. Vivian's still up, and Vivian going to be taken by Ehrenmanner, so that's a pretty strong counter, I think, so far to start against Torv as well. Having Makoa to hook the target or the Torvald themselves, and Vivian to kind of burn through that shielding if they decide to do that. So decent damage boost counter, at least to start coming out from Ehrenmanner.
This is a very impressive start. I feel like a lot of teams we've seen, And, you know, a couple of them come to mind, like Dreams specifically is a support that does this. Focuses on Genos primarily. Like, they almost instantly grab them up.
Yeah.
Whereas in matches like this, like, I could cover up Ehrenmanner's name, kind of change their color. That's the beginning to a Flashpoint draft as well, where it's just Makoa, Vivian. Two things that are going to be very strong when you have the Tyra and the Victor banned away. Vivian kind of skyrockets, I think, in her taste, I guess, overall, and what she's going to be able to accomplish, her palpability for the game. Whereas Makoa, I mean, in the right hands, just like, he wins games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole point of him, right? Like, good players hitting a hook on a good team, it's a kill every time.
True.
And usually you're like, oh, my ult will be a guaranteed kill, but Hook's on like a 12-second cooldown or something along those lines. It's very short, so getting that constantly is such an impactful thing to bring into this fight. And Makoa, Vivian, Grover, and Nara, that's a pretty good death ball composition. That's a comp that's going to move together, get picks. So the Barrack Con coming out for them, tanks with kind of discrete, immediate survivability. It's going to be good to counter that, but if they can't burn through picks on Ehrenmanner, they're going to completely flip that.
This kind of feels like it's superfluous to mention because it's been this way for a little while, but because Grover can heal through walls as well, this is like one of the best maps where it's just like, cool, if you're on point, you're on statue side, as long as I stand in this middle, theoretically I hit everybody if I have the right radius going for it. But hey, Koga locked in at the very end there. It's been a while since I've gotten treated to a Koga, but Console always makes him look good, and it's going to be fun to see him here as we go into Jaguar Falls, and for that, you have to jump down to the casters to get this game started.
Thank you guys from the desk. Really, really appreciate that. I'm here, Fawn, with Dave, Dolson, the man.
Yeah.
Welcome, my friend. Welcome. Happy Monday, everybody.
That's right. Happy Monday.
For joining us on Jaguar Falls, the first game of the Paladins Console League. Really, really excited to get this started.
Should be a lot of fun to jump into. These two teams relatively close as far as standings go. And the drafts themselves all looking good, top to bottom. Makoa, haven't seen too much Koga, Adrenaline Junkie. Little energy restoration when you're shooting with those machine guns. Cyclone Strike, I believe it was his ultimate rate got touched up a little bit. So, I mean, he certainly has his merits in the Console League. I think he fits just fine here. Ehrenmanner probably looking to fight sort of as a big death ball around that Grover here, and Koga can certainly make that work when that ultimate's up.
Yep, I saw the hook happen. The silhouette for Barrack just immediately got pulled directly to Makoa. He does actually find the kill. Koga's waiting around a little bit on the flank, trying to see if he can find some opening damage at all, but unfortunately for them, the game has been paused by Mr. Faded for the Koga, which is very interesting. I mean, at first they were starting off really, really well. I mean, like, clearly they got the first blood. They managed to kill the Barrack on Jaguar Falls, which was good. Their point tank's gone. The rest of Arial Arise had actually moved over to the side on the flank, tried to see if they can get something going, but since Barrack is gone, it's going to change a lot.
Yeah, and especially with the composition that Ehrenmanner have built out, you have a Makoa now just freestanding on the point.
Right,
They had, I believe, 30 to 40% by the time that the game was paused out. The 4v5 advantage, and now you look at how they can take advantage of the number disparity, if they can maybe steamroll that into something a little bit heavier. I mean, just those small advantages, good teams can really take advantage of that. 54% is where they come out to. Barrack will be coming back into the fight here, though. Along this back side, Ehrenmanner kind of have him zoned out.
Oh, man. Zoned it is for sure. The rest of Arial Rise is not really following up. Barrack is by himself in this choke point, really, and they're just grouping up. Death ball was a perfect way to put it, because you see this? They haven't moved. They've been on the point. They've been right behind the Inara, right behind the Grover, right behind the Makoa, and they're just literally just playing, their whole team's playing backline support to the Inara. They can't really find a way in, and you already see Paraslay trying to go one-on-one with this Koga, but he's not going to be able to find anything.
Yeah, this Koga's kind of been tearing throughout the first part of this game. Likely going to add another kill for himself here. Vcon is the one who ends up dropping there. They look to still get aggressive here. This payload actually starts moving very quickly as they move into the base. 0 kills total for Arial Arise on the opposite side. Ernest, despite having no kills, has 4 assists. I mean, of the 6 kills that are on the board for Ehrenmanner, the Vivian's had her hand in 4 of them. So good 66% margin there. One more rocket will deal with that Vivian. But as long as they stay around this Grover, the Vivian has time to wind up. You know, you're looking good. Overpowered doesn't work out there, and Ehrenmanner moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. 2 kills for them on the red side. And Lightman is up. Dragon Punch is there. Koga using his own ultimate to make sure that he can at least not only give himself some immunity, but make sure he can at least find some damage so the rest of his team can push in comfortably. Pushing in they are. The Dragon Punch does come through, though. He's trying to find somebody to get something started, but all of them literally just back off. They heard the Dragon Punch start up, and they gave him the respect.
Gonna have to turn around and back off. They throw out through time and space as well. That's a perfect hook in there onto Codriser. Down to the low ground goes the Leon. It's gonna be Grover who ends up finding that one. So now you're at a 4v5 again. They might just start tossing some ultimates out. Whirlwind, most notably, in this payload might go in.
For sure, the battle shot to give himself a little bit more of immunity. Khan's really just stuck here on the side against Koga, against Makoa. The rest of Ehrenmanner just pushing in, wiping it up, cleaning it up. 2-0 against Arial Arise in this case. They're going to have to find something to get it started, but just take a look at the replay.
Yeah, and this is just the control that Ehrenmanner bring out. You can see Arial Arise all forced back into this room behind the midpoint here, and that's on the back of just one kill at the beginning. You noted that the Barrack is gone. Barrack Genos is a very sneaky, damaging stack, so getting rid of the Barrack to begin with actually eliminates a good bit of damage, especially when you consider the frontline control going up against a Makoa, going up against an Inara. You need that Barrack presence, and then once that goes away, the control just so firmly in favor of Ehrenmanner at that point. They just kind of overtake the mid, overrun the rest of the map. I believe Arial Arise had 0% on the point. And then you look at the end fight there, you know, a whiffed overpower, a missed Dragon Punch, one that really just got turned back on, a hook that pulled Codriser down, got rid of the Leon. Nothing really hitting for Arial Arise towards the end of that one. And Ehrenmanner sitting pretty at 2 points.
Look at where they're standing right now. Once again, I said the whole team was playing backline DPS for the Inara, and I was right. You just see them immediately. Seismic Crash to follow through to see if they can get something going, and they do. Ancient Rage just popped almost immediately, make sure they can get the kill on Leon, and they do find a double kill for Mr. Nick there on the Makoa. He is looking for the Barrack as well, but he goes down to the Koga Paraslay, trying to find some rockets. Can't find anything to really get him started. Dragon Punch and Overpower are available, and Lightmate coming up soon, but I don't know if it's going to be enough with 93% on the point.
Yeah, I mean, you get 35% because of the fast cap, but the power of Makoa shines through here on this first mid-fight. You just pop the Ancient Rage, you run down a couple members of Arial Arise. In the meantime, you have an Inara chilling on the point. And that's really all she wrote here in this case. And even with fast cap, Arial Arise only getting to, you know, the mid-30s. Another kill going the way of Grover through time and space, over 2 here in this game. You're looking now at the defense, especially with the Enlightenment missing. Into the Cyclone Strike, well played, quick reactions there from Quick Faded. Finally, the Overpower is going to hit here. 1 kill is all Arial Arise have to hang their hat on. Ehrenmanner around this final corner. They have 2 kills total in this game. I mean, at some point, you just got to say they're getting outplayed, and I think we've reached that point.
Yeah, I think we have indeed. 1-5, 1-4, 0-5, 0-2, 0-4. Meanwhile, Ehrenmanner just dusting their hands off, just gladly pushing this payload in with very little contestation coming out from Arial Arise. Really just unable to do so. Dragon Punch comes out once again, trying to find somebody, but everyone backs up. They do get the kill onto the Jogos, which is going to be big, but Whirlwind is still there, and you haven't dealt with the problem. The Koga's still running free. Inara's still on the point. No damage barely on her, so you're going to see a point where I'm pretty sure they're going to end up pushing this one in.
Yeah, I mean, with a 10 streak on the Koga, a 15 streak on the Vivian, they have not been touched this entire game. Now with Barrack going down, almost certainly, and it is certain, Ehrenmanner pushed that one through, convincing 4-0 from them. The composition, honestly, worked out so well. I mean, I think they are a very good team. They've shown the ability to win some big games so far. Remember, this is now our second run through. Everyone's played each other once, and now we're getting our look at some rematches here. And so, you know, Ehrenmanner really trying to make a statement on this Division 1 that, you know, Flashpoint traditionally controls pretty heavily. And they're doing just that here. A good set of rounds there from them. Good draft. The Koga was a bit of an interesting pick. I think it worked out just fine. 70k damage for Ernest down there on the Vivian. And then, you know, Makoa, I hesitate to look so heavily at the damage charts, but it's an easy sort of indicator. I look at the streaks over there on the right-hand side. You have a 16 streak on your healer, a 16 streak on your Vivian. And there was really King Nick, who just kept kind of rolling in, trying to control that front line. He died probably the most at 1, yeah, technically. But he had the maybe least quote-quote impact KDA-wise. But as far as opening up that door for everyone else to do some work on Ehrenmanner, he certainly did that.
I mean, yeah, the positive slash lines all around for them. Take a look at Quick's faded real quick. See, with the 8-1 and 6. Now, we saw he only had 42,000 damage on the Koga, but you already see the terror that this man was inflicting upon Arial Arise, forcing so many of them back in the right space at the right time. May have not been getting that much damage, but his slash lines more than enough to prove it. 8-1. Really, really good looking for him and the Koga in general. Just his positional awareness, where he was trying to go, what his target was always just in the right spot at the right time, which is what allowed his team to push him.
I think that's pretty important to look at as well, like what his targets were the entire game. I mean, you look at a Vivian, basically, you want Vivian gameplay, you hold down left click and you sometimes zoom in and maybe you'll hit your Q for a shield. So you're guaranteed to do a lot of damage. Of Koga, he's in a weird way like a flanky assassin where he really tries to melt these low health targets. So just by default, you won't have, you know, the same serious damage numbers. There are exceptions where you'll see a Koga just kind of pop off, but he really just wanted to melt the squishies that game.
Right, exactly. First game goes to Ehrenmanner in this case. Jaguar Falls is done, but that doesn't mean the rest of the set is. Tune in after this break for game 2.
The Paladins Console League is brought to you by Evil Mojo Games, developers of Paladins.
Well, faster than we were able to finish analyzing it before the game. We have Ehrenmanner finishing the game.
Yeah.
That was incredibly fast from them. And honestly, I think it's a story on two fronts. Obviously, everybody did incredibly well, but when you 4-0, it tends to always look that way. But Vivian, I think, was the underlying factor. We watched a little bit of Koga highlights, but she was the one that just blew the damage out of the water.
Yeah, and her damage was high, but she was also shredding shields the whole time. I mean, there was a moment where the Khan was just isolated on the side, and his shield went from 100 to 0 like that. That damage doesn't show up in the chart, so she did even more than the stats would imply.
That's the scary part, because the damage that showed up in the stats was ridiculously high as it was. And then, of course, when you lock in Koga, you got to be feeling pretty confident about Koga, and they showed off exactly that. So Jag Falls in the books, locked down, and, well, Ehrenmanner are looking like potentially the very solid number 2 team, depending on how the rest of the set goes. But, I mean, for Jag Falls, and I kind of want to ask you this, when you start off in a 4-0, and you're on a map like Jag Falls that is capable of being 4-0s, are you worried about it going into map 2, or you just kind of say, that was rough, let's just go win our map?
I think it depends a lot on what the map 2 is, you know, because if it's like you're going from Jag to Bright, something like that, then you can maybe transfer that and feel like that would carry over. But Bazaar is a map that is still flat, but very different. I think it's a map we both like a lot.
Yes.
Very open, so a lot of backlines are strong on this map. Any off-tank that can cross a lot of distance is very strong on this map, and I like the pick after coming from that kind of loss.
It's very...
Actually, wait, this is Ehrenmanner's pick. They just wanted... Yeah, that's right. I forgot. It's forgot that was Arial Rise's pick that they just got 4-0'd on.
Oof. Either way, this is a good map to maybe try and change things around for them. Because of, I want to say how new it is, it's still kind of in that area of people still figuring out what is the best approach, specifically for the push. Like, a lot of the time, I think when maps come out, it always seems very like, okay, how do we win the point fight oriented? And then once people understand that, they're like, okay, cool. How do we make this a 4-0 now? Like, how do we do that in the fastest possible way? Ice Mines took a little while to get there, but people have figured out the push now to make that a 4-0.
It's like 20% there.
Yeah, it's been making those steps. But hey, much like last time, you prioritize the damage amp for your first pick, at least for now, and they get Makoa Vivian on the other side.
Yeah, and I like how they didn't ban out the Tyra, because they have the chance to first pick, force second pick Arial Rise to pick some different things there. So ending up with the Tyra, great on this map because it's so open, not many places to hide from the damage mark once it's up. But Makoa Vivian response from Arial Rise, I mean, that's looking a lot like the last draft, but with the Grover pick, Ehrenmanner's kind of trying to not give them the same exact 5 they had last time.
You can't have our exact draft.
Yeah.
And I think the good thing is like, even though you don't have Vivian, Tyra can still be more than capable of shredding shields.
Oh, yeah.
There's also other champions in the game that they could pick up potentially towards the end of this. But also when it comes down to killing tanks, Tyra is probably, I'd say, the best damage amp. Like, Vivian, really good at shredding shields. Tyra, good at just shredding health bars because of the percentage damage that you deal to the target as opposed to what you get on top of the damage you're doing.
It's because everybody gets the amp. That's why it's so good against tanks, as opposed to, you know, Luminary, you can spread it to 2 people, but it's not across the board to everybody. But, oh yeah, quick reference, yeah, this is the first console game that IO will be allowed in. Well, the first week that it'll be allowed in, and it will be taken. So, interesting by Ehrenmanner. I think that's good on this map, too. Being able to pocket the Ashe or the Khan to move them across the side. It also could be main healer IO DPS Grover. It could be either one, honestly.
Yeah, we've seen Ferocity Grover actually do really well here. In my mind, for some reason, Bazaar is the only map for IO, maybe because there's a statue there.
It's true.
Or maybe
You're right.
because when I was doing the update show for her, this is the map that it was. So in my mind, I just default IO to Bazaar. But it's going to be coming through.
Oh,
It's
she's
gonna
the
be
background,
interesting
too.
To
It's
see
the
how
background
she
on her
does.
pick.
Yeah. So this is her hometown as far as she's concerned. And Willow locked in there at the end. I will say Arial Rise have a very solid draft to try and fight back here. But hey, we've got IO, and we'll see if she does better here than she did in her premiere in the Premier League itself as we jump down to the casters.
Here we go, Game 2, Ehrenmanner versus Arial Arise. I'm interested to see what IO has to bring to the table today.
Yeah.
Second time we've seen her overall on broadcast. So I'm excited to see what she's going to do in her hometown. That's her statue, too.
That's right. I mean, if there's a map that she'll succeed on, you'd assume it was, or it would be Bazaar. Ice Mines, you know, we saw her in the PPL last week. She was not really the reason that I believe it was the Renegade set that they lost that game. I mean, there was some merit to IO. You saw moments of where you'll stick IO on the midpoint, walk away. It looks like they're going to run Goddess's Blessing, which I think is sort of the community favorite or the competitive favorite either way to run on IO. Likely exactly what Kresnik said. You're going to sort of rotate with some people up here on the right-hand side, toss your wolf down near them and kind of pocket them as you move across this upper area. I mean, 25% DR in a weird way. You see how competitive damage amp is. Damage reduction is kind of very good, but for the opposite reason. I mean, you're limiting the percentage that enemies can do using protectors as well, running that at 5 swift arrows to top that one all off. That'll just allow a little bit of extra movement speed, a little bit DR. So they look to play aggressive when you have the IO pocket going on.
Right.
And then this is a good example of what you can do with the Wolf. You're just going to stick it on the point while the rest of your team moves out in zones, already up to 84%. Very controlling so far from Ehrenmanner.
Yeah, Nara eating a lot of shots here. My goodness, she's pumping her full of arrows. She's trying to find her way onto the point, but already lost more than half of her HP at that point. Once she gets there, the thing is that I don't even know if the rest of them are going to be able to follow up. But Vivian, this damage, opportunity, and chaos is definitely being a factor here as she does get the kill onto Grover, but she took down one healer. Don't forget, there's another one still. IO is there. Yep. Luna still being on the point, acting as that active turret. Tyra is up on the high ground, getting a few shots, flying that Hunter's Mark, make sure she gets a little bit more damage. Willow being low, though, it's going to mean a lot, but that healing from Fury is going to keep her alive.
Dead zone is going to limit it just a little bit. They're going to back off here. Much more even start from Arial Arise this time than what we saw last time around. The free-firing Vivian from COD Rise are really making a difference here in this one. And Flame, though, is looking like it's going to get used from Arial Arise. Nothing on the back end of it, though. 30% behind on this mid. I look now that both teams are back to even strength. If Ehrenmanner can kind of weather this storm, heal up a little bit, they might win this fight.
Yeah, I agree. I heard the Crossfire actually did end up being activated. Makoa being so low, though. Overpower is there. They trade 1-for-1. Their point tank for one of their damage dealer. That's going to mean a lot, but another one of the tanks on Ehrenmanner's side goes down. But now that Ashe evened it up 2-2 with the rest of them falling on the side of Arial Rise is going to mean a lot. They just have to get this Makoa off of point. Keep him a little bit less annoying, but he manages to make it right back on. He's stalling just for a little bit. The Yanara does come back, and so does the DPS.
Yeah, we're going to keep going here. 99%. Overtime is going to expire so fast right when Arial Arise drop off. Double kill from the Grover might just seal this one up.
Yeah, for sure. There's the Fae Flight as well. Hunter's Mark is on him, but the overtime a little bit too much. triple kill for the Grover. Save the green, Poison Ivy, Swamp Thing. Everyone in between are there for the power of nature. Grover finds 4 kills for himself on Ehrenmanner's side. Good job from Ehrenmanner, just keeping it pretty consistent, keeping it pretty concise during that mid fight, and capturing the point for themselves for the first point on Bazaar.
Yo, Ernest just kind of popped off on that mid right there on the Grover. He nailed a few axes that really sealed things up for his team. And you know, these Grover axes, they're sneaky. They'll really start to hurt you. He's going to throw out the Whirlwind. Ehrenmanner want to keep this going. I mean, once this payload rounds this corner, it's much harder to defend.
Yeah, it is. Nara trying to get to point. Not really. Could have just waited just a little bit longer, just to make sure that she actually didn't push up. That she could, push up with the rest of her team. But she ends up going over there just to contest it just a little bit longer, trying to give her team time to respawn. They do have defender's advantage, so they will be respawning literally back into the fight almost instantly. Not necessarily a bad choice, but Anara once again going back to the point, trying to see if she could do anything, just being a contention point for her team. Luna's there, but unfortunately she goes down along with Io, and that's going to mean a lot coming from Ehrenmanner to win this fight.
Crossfire did get used. You're going to have the Sentinels up now as well. It's a successful defense here from Arial Arise. Just the respawn proximity. 1 or 2 good picks is really all they need here. And the frontliners, and really Ernest in this case, doing the thing here for Ehrenmanner. The IO, honestly, I think has been pretty good up to this point. The damage reduction has really helped Ehrenmanner kind of round these choke point corners so much harder too under normal circumstances. I mean, technically on the healing charts, VCon on that Furia is higher up, but then you consider the sort of double hybrid healers that you have going on the Ehrenmanner side. They technically have more total healing in that case. Good overpower to start this one off, though.
Luna is down and out on the playing field. You see a little bit of this pocketing, this 25% DR coming out from Io. It's going to mean a lot for the rest of them coming into this very, very last point fight. She moves Luna up, make sure she's on the point at all times. Whirlwind is there, healing through walls, healing everywhere to make sure they get something going. Faye Flight as well. But that 100 mark on Makoa is going to mean a lot. Willow's going to have to do something. Paraslay getting a lot of damage onto this Tyra to make sure, just making her life a little bit harder. But that healing almost instantly puts her back to full health from both Grover and Io. Is going to mean a lot, especially with Nara going down.
Yeah, and Codrides are in the back trying to turn this one around, but they're just back around the corner. Crossfire as well, maybe pulls things back to even. Quick's faded. It's going to be the one to find a double kill here, make it a triple, almost a quadra. That's all they needed to bust down that door. Ehrenmanner up 2-0.
Yeah, that was very effective use of the Crossfire. At first I was like, oh, it's a little bit too close. Most of your team has died at this point. I wonder why I used the Crossfire, and he showed it off just right there, just like we're showing it off in this situation too right now with the Grover. All these axes, he's just chucking them. For the green, he does it for nature. Yikes. Just up in the sky. Just, right, yeah, that precision snipe from the axe. Knessa's got some challenge.
Sorry, I was looking at Io when we loaded in. Could we look at the talents just one more time? I didn't catch what Grover was running on his side. Okay, so it is Ferocity. I was looking at Io. She's running Goddess or the damage reduction on Io. So it is Ferocity Grover here for Ernest. I mean, you sort of from context clues insinuate that. I just wanted to confirm those long range axes really start to plug away here. Ooh. First really good example of an IO ult, actually. Everyone from Arial Arise chunked down. The follow-up, though, from Ehrenmanner, actually quite the opposite, and Flame counters that one out very well, and they're forced back.
Yeah, very good ult from Io, but you got to give credit where credit is due. Seismic crashing everybody in a dead zone just chunked them, especially when Inflame came out for sure. That allowed Arial Arise to be able to push him back just a little bit longer. Tyra being in a bad spot at a bad time does go down. Codriser on the Vivian. Sure that he actually got some damage and a kill of his own. Dead zone being just in fact for the con right there. He tried to touch a little bit too late.
That's the first point for Arial Arise in this set. On the back of Fast Cap, but you're right. I mean, great plays there at the start. The seismic crash locking up a bunch of them. Dead zone being around them as well. And that's really the benefit of having that Fast Cap, that 4% per tick, because you take a small advantage that normally the other team would have the opportunity to maybe get back and fight back against, and you really slam that door shut. So, I mean, it's a great fight. You get a little extra help from the game mechanics in that case. You get yourselves on the board. It's really dependent, honestly, on how fast you can break through this choke point, because this alleyway is honestly just very obvious. You know where the enemy team is coming from if you're trying to defend. it gets a lot more chaotic, honestly, when you round sort of that final corner here. So depending on how well Arial or Rise can fight here, it's either easier or much harder. Right now, it's looking much harder for them.
Much harder indeed. I just saw, you have to forgive me, I was like stunned a little bit because I saw the Ashe get hooked in. There are 3 people around her. I'm like, oh, she's low. There's no way.
Yeah, no,
and
she's
you
alive.
You just hear the crossfire. And not only that, you see Ashe getting the first kill and then Tyra following over her own ultimate to make sure she can finish it off. And they find their way out of that situation. Grover does go down, though. It's going to be a little bit of a problem. Now Tyra's in a bad spot, but Makoa goes down as well. All of these plot twists, just crazy. I keep thinking they're going to go down, and they don't actually find the kills, though. 2-1 currently. Paraslate getting 2 kills of his own, 1 on the Grover, 1 on Khan, with Ashe being the first to break that mold. It's going to mean a lot for them.
That Quick's Faded is really a thorn in the side of Arial or Rise right now. You know, these fights kind of start off lopsided. I mean, getting rid of her, the Tyra being her in this case, is actually not going to end up happening unless able to turn around and get the kill. You're going to have to double pinch him in this case. But with 30 seconds left, Ehrenmanner delayed so much time. Arial or Rise is not going to have a lot of time to really push through this street here. A good hook onto Io. I mean, if you can stagger out Ehrenmanner the way you are right now, it becomes a lot less easy, of course, to defend in that case. But now losing Paraslay, Payload's likely going to stall out right around here. This next fight, in my opinion, really determines whether it goes in.
I agree, especially with 10 seconds left on the clock. Nick's looking for some sort of, I don't know, he's looking for overpower. He's really just looking for damage, if anything, to make sure his team can get where he needs to. And the kill on Makoa is going to mean a lot. Nara's looking pretty low as well, especially with the mark on her. It's going to mean a lot. She does go down to the rest of Arial or Rise. Not going to be able to hold steady with this one. And 3-1 currently on Ehrenmanner's side. All they need to do is make one more point cap. And with all 5 ults online for both teams, this fight could literally go either way.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at ultimate economy, still fast cap for Arial or Rise in this case. The total advantage overall, of course, going to Ehrenmanner. Ferocity Grover has its moments, but it certainly has its off moments. And Ernest playing it very well here. Great slash line, doing a good bit of damage, good bit of healing as well. But this is kind of our first look. I forget the entire composition that Renegade's built around the IO, but kind of our first look at a team that's built around not only damage reduction on their side, but damage amp with the hunting party. And a lot of these mid fights, I mean, you see how fast other people melt and how unfast, or slowly, I guess is the English word for that, that the guys on Ehrenmanner are not dying. I mean, that one Ashe moment where she's caught out by like 4 people, you're just healing and damage reducing with Io that entire time, staying alive. Seismic crash, though, on the back end of 1 kill, especially onto the Tyra. Arial or Rise starting this one off well.
Whirlwind to make sure that he keeps his team alive. Grover just backing off along. Both healers just really retreating. Paraslay was really chasing them down until he got hit by a couple actions. It was like, okay, I'll give you your respect it is that you need. I apologize. I didn't mean to play the game. I was just trying to make sure I could get a kill or 2 for my team, but had to back up, and unfortunately does go down still to the actions from Grover. 58% on the point for Arial or Rise. Crossfire coming out too is going to mean a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot less automatic now that you start turning things around. Get the kill onto Alex Kidd as well. Ehrenmanner right back to storming the gates. The Makoa's going to go down. They're going to zone for the win.
Yeah, I agree. 2 kills already down. Inflame is still up. The only ultimate is actually not used in that exchange. Very interesting. The Vivian does go down as well, with Inflame still being up.
They have so much.
That's a lot.
This is where IO is beneficial. You stick the Wolf on the point. The rest of the 5 members of Ehrenmanner move forward. They continues to capture, and now you have a little bit more strength to defend with.
Exactly. Moves Luna off of the point, though, to try and combat this Anar. Make sure he can get a kill. And really, it's okay at this point because the rest of them are going to try and find a way to do something. Paraslay moves just out of the way in time to dodge the IO ult, but the dead zone, man, that's meaning a lot. It's playing such a pivotal role, especially on this map. Too many choke points for them to be able to try and fight back and against this team. And 2 kills come up at exactly the same time. Assert Dominance as well follows through to make sure they can stall just long enough so his team can get back.
Yeah, he's going to see if he can stall things out. Actually, Quick's Faded on the back line, finding a kill onto Paraslay as well. Depending on how long this Ashe is able to stay alive, they're going to get staggered out. Whirlwind maybe trades things back, but that overtime meter starting to evaporate. Overpower, though, maybe brings things back into the balance.
Luna's doing what she can. She's sitting on the point. She's trying to fight, but unfortunately, she can't actually make it last long enough for Ehrenmanner to live. Vivian does go down, though. The overpower, very nice overpower, too, at that.
Yep.
Just got him barely out like the corner, just right behind that crate. It is you see where Quick's Fada is right there. She managed to pull Vivian from off of the high ground, get the kill. Staggers her out just a little bit, which is going to be enough for them coming into this next fight.
And this is where I think Quick's Faded and the rest of Ehrenmanner will feel okay on the defensive end. I mean, you're essentially just sitting up on this balcony, free-firing into the enemy team, knowing where they're going to come up against you. The Vivian you have to be careful of because she's doing the same, just on the opposite side. The Io Wolf, of course, Luna, will be doing a lot of contesting there. They're going to pop the Inflame, though, and try to get this one moving.
Vivian's been holding down that left click button since it's far. Every time we switch to spectator, she's just been firing, and it has been doing a lot for their team as well. Cauterizer with 2 kills, possibly a third. The pressure is there. He hasn't moved his cursor. He's just trying to make sure he can do what he needs to. 3 kills already, forcing Io already back into the spawn. Vivian being such a pivotal role here. Has to move the controller stick to make sure he can literally aim down those shots, pinpoint where they're going to be, and it's paying off.
Left trigger, the Vivian experience, and it's in full effect here. 126k damage. The big saving grace as we're rounding the final corner. A minute left still. You got a few tries at this. If you're Arial or Rise, you don't have to expend everything right now. Faithlight, though, is going to be the first thing they try to use and maybe find a pick.
Oh, but this is a good spot for a seismic crash. They really do want to push this in, but the question is, do they want to use it? You see the Inara pretty much contesting almost 2 people, but the damage of Makoa might be a little bit too much. He has to back off, uses the shield. Shell spins out of there. Smart move, and once again, Vivian doing what she does best, making sure she can hold down that primary fire to get that damage going. Crossfire in return, though. Inara being so low with Hunter's Mark on her, it's going to mean a lot if they can get the kill on Inara.
There's a good wall down there from Alex Kidd to keep him alive just a little bit longer. Ernest ends up finding the axe here in this case. This is where Arial or Rise will back off. They're not going to use too much here. And one thing I'm noting is that as a team, they're kind of, fighting forward, and this is kind of how you push on this map anyway, but it's a good example of it where you push forward. Not able to get the Makoa just yet. Likely a successful defense here. They're pushing all forward as a team, Arial or Rise. It's not going to matter as they lose the offensive push anyway, but then kind of kite back into the Vivian, Codriser in this case, and that's really where a lot of those advantages were coming from. There were moments that it looked like Arial or Rise may be able to push it in. Ended up not paying off this time, but sort of the forward push and then the kite backwards into a Vivian, forcing them into the crosshairs there. Very well played on their part. Likely going to come down to maybe one final mid-fight here. Arial or Rise will not win if they capture this one. Ehrenmanner will, though, however, on the opposite side. Finally, the Tyra overtaking Willow on the damage charts there. Lots of resiliences here in this case. A little bit of Bulldozer for Luna. And I think that makes a lot of sense here in this case. Just extra help getting rid of the annoying Wolf if you're on the opposite side. So Seismic Crash, Alex Kidd has been hitting him pretty consistently in this game, so I look for maybe a good one of those to start off this fight. Oftentimes, though, it's the team that swings first that wins, and this time it's Arial or Rise.
Swing he did. Faded, just getting boinked by that Makoa anchor is going to mean a lot for Arial Rise, especially with them finding that first kill for them. 20% on the point for them as well. So many more ultimates are up. Fayfly slowly building, along with the seismic crashes there. The Inflame gets popped, but the overpower is missed. Io's ult be gone, as well as Grover's Whirlwind is going to play a huge factor if they can use it right.
Yeah, the Assert Dominance was good. Lots of good area control there, but the moment it wore out, Ash was in just a horrible spot. It ends up losing her life for it here. In this case, Vivian still free-firing the back line. And it's another great example from Arial or Rise where they're kind of fighting forward, bringing in Ehrenmanner, and then kiting backwards into the damage dealers, notably Vivian in this case. The Sentinels have been up for so long. The Ferocity Grover had a huge impact early in this game, started to fall off just a little bit. And you're up huge in this one. You're Ehrenmanner, and now on the defensive end, you're looking down the barrel of a loss.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know where anything really could have gone wrong. Like a few mid-fights lost here and there, but still Ehrenmanner successful on the defenses. Now it's looking like they could end up losing this one, just as you said. The payload's pushing. very little contesting happening from their team as well, and it's looking to be a very, very big struggle for them. That bulldozer against Luna, as well as just their itemization, has been playing a huge role, because you already see Luna's dead.
Yeah.
She's gone. She literally just got spawned, and now she's not there anymore. So that's playing a huge role into Arial Arise's gameplay.
It's a pretty long cooldown as well, getting that wolf
exactly.
back out there. So, you know, killing it on cooldown is about as good as you can get. Popping the Inflame, they're looking to end this game.
Yeah, for sure. Here comes the shots from Khan as well. Commander's grab, making sure he can do something, but it's not going to be enough. The hook from Makoa is going to mean a lot. Anara making sure that he looks like he can get a kill on Ash. If he does, Crossfire as well. Try and find something, but unfortunate for Ehrenmanner. Currently with a 3-0 lead at first, then changed to a 4-3 in favor of Arial Arise.
Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough way to go out of that one. I mean, you're so in control, honestly. I mean, notably the Grover. Some miracle plays at the beginning. You see that kind of like unofficial quadra, the axes all flying, all hitting. And then sort of down the stretch just didn't quite hit the same mark. You know, some of the items that came in towards the end of it, a little bit of extra cauterize, you know, kind of limits what the Grover can do. The dead zone as well from the Willow. You know, it has its merits to begin with, but the tools on the side of Arial Arise were good enough to kind of clip the wings of what Ehrenmanner were trying to do in this case. Quick's faded with 147k, but then when you have 160 and 147 on the opposite side, just a little bit too much damage, not enough healing that ended up countering it out. I mean, you look at 223,000 from the Vivian. Of course, total numbers, you know, 95k from Io, very good, honestly, 140,000. I mean, you total healing, you're around the same amount, but the same amount from one healer, and then you get to add in maybe an extra damage dealer or something of that nature. You know, that's kind of imbalance you look at. 19-9 and 22 for Codriser in this case. The Vivian free firing in the back line. Hard to look anywhere else, in my opinion.
Right, yeah. I mean, once it was decided at first, and then there was one thing it is that was brought to my remembrance the more it is I was watching this game. All of this was happening when Ehrenmanner was using this sort of like, not necessarily death ball loop, but really the strong early game comp. They were up 3-0, and then all of a sudden it just got reverse sweep. But I remember this was all before Vivian came along. Yeah. Level 3 Bulldozer, level 3 Wrecker,
sure.
2 Cauterize, a few other things as well. Just ended up being too much for Ehrenmanner to handle, excuse me, especially with Luna. She just immediately got bursted every time she was put out on the field.
And now I'm looking back at that one push for Ehrenmanner that didn't work out. I mean, that likely, I mean, it would have ended the game, but that's kind of where things started to turn. That's that next mid-fight where, like you said, some items started to come online. The Cauterize really impacts a team that fights so heavily kind of as a group in that healing dead zone as well, countered out a lot of what Ehrenmanner were trying to do.
Yeah, both teams tied 1-1, but right after this break will be Game 3.
Respawn, the official gaming chair of the Paladins Console League.
Well, Arial Arise want us to know that they are not out of it yet. Despite a very fast Jaguar Falls game, that was a quite lengthy, bizarre match, pretty much fighting back from a deficit the entire time. And Kresnik, in the unfortunate twist of events, Io has now lost both games that we've seen her in, one in the PPL, one in the PCL. Is it her? or is it just the way she's being played? Like, what is up with where she is?
I mean, I wish she had been able to output more healing. I mean, the DPS Grover was doing more healing than her. I'm not sure. She was able to not die very much. I mean, only 5 deaths through the game. I think maybe a lifelink focused build could have helped supplement that healing a little bit, but people are kind of still figuring out her place, you know? The damage was okay. The sustain was okay, but it just wasn't what the team needed.
I feel like for now, do you think people are just going to be like, it's not us, it's you. And like, it is 100%
Let her down
you. Or maybe
lightly.
it's not you, it's me. Either way, it's just not quite clicking, I think, the way teams wanted it. Arial Arise being able to fight back. Again, a hard-fought victory there in map number 2, but to tie up the set, so we're going to go ahead and take a peek at where we're going to go next. And, well, since they banned out pretty much everything other than Bright Marsh in terms of quote-unquote standard maps, Ice Mines is the next one on the chopping block.
Yeah, and it could be another long one. I mean, knowing how this map normally goes. It could be
I
another...
just heard Dave scream.
Just through the
You
aether.
said Ice Mines and then followed it up with another long one, and I feel like I just felt some rage, maybe.
Something's wrong in the
Through
force.
the universe.
Dave. But no, I mean, it could also be another IO map if they want to take it back. I mean, a good team can tell when it was a character, when it wasn't. I think it was how they played it and the fact that they were so kind of hesitant on the mids. They weren't really utilizing her, I think, to her fullest potential. The DR can let them go in, and they just didn't want to follow up.
So it's your favored way, I guess, to Io. We've seen her as DPS. Renegades played her, and Vocal was the player.
Yeah.
Last game we saw her kind of as the primary support. Is she someone that should be a hybrid, kind of like Ferocity Grover?
I think so. I think that's how you're going to play her, because her damage is okay. It's not fantastic, but she's a good wrecker. Her ult is pretty solid, at least solid, like single target CC. She has her potential. Just people have to figure it out.
Well, the potential's there. As of right now, though, she's not locked in. Tyra, Khan, Atlas, Talus all banned away. Makoa first pick here for Ehrenmanner. Responded to by Vivian. And, well, when you can't get Vivian Makoa for your first pick, you're going to go Vivian Ashe. But notably, still leaves Genos on the table, who has been either banned or picked up, and Victor, who has been just one of the most prominent console champions, period.
Yeah, normally, some people would say maybe they're not picking him because it's Ice, but I mean, we've seen him a lot on Ice Mines. I think he was banned on Ice Mines in the
This is actually one of his best
set.
maps, too.
Yeah, I think so. The ability to fight around the corners is huge. Being able to throw the grenade, get the barrages, people try to run away. There's a lot there. Makoa and Nara Grover is a very good start for an Ice Mines composition. I mean, the healing, the tight healing on that mid, the aggression from the Makoa, you can follow up on the Seismic Crash. That's a lot so far for Ehrenmanner, but Terminus Ashe, it's a little Ice Minesy.
It feels very old style to me. Like,
Old
there
style?
was a period of time where Terminus was like good before he got banned for being too buggy, and then he got unbanned, and then he wasn't really good. Now it's just like that period of time coming back. Vivian, solid on this map. Ashe, Terminus can be very solid on this map if played appropriately. I think that's the kind of pin to put in it. But we've seen a lot of Terminus on console, so you can't really talk against him because I've seen him win, I've seen him lose. It does depend on the team that backs him.
It really also depends on how well they stop themselves from getting surrounded. Because if right now, if Term gets surrounded, he's so much harder to survive with. But if they can control that stage area, they can make it a little easier. And Sky would be an interesting way to stop that from happening. Tanks can't really push into that debilitate percentage damage. And if Arial can pull that off, they could take this to a 2-1 lead.
I like it. This is going to be a very weird, maybe out there comparison, but Sky in my mind with Debilitate is kind of similar to Tyra's damage amp, where it comes through. Like, Tyra is going to give it to everybody. Sky's going to keep it to herself, but it's still percentage, and it's still killing that guy a little faster. And when you're looking at Inara, you're looking at Makoa. That's one of the best ways to get through. But Victor, Willow, two tried and true champions that we have seen on this map countless times. So the question comes down to Ehrenmanner, Arial Arise. Who will take the lead? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to go down to the map.
Let us begin the games. Ice Mine is where we will go on Game 3. Sky's going to play an interesting role here. She's going to be able to burn down that Makoa and a few other members on Ehrenmanner's team. So I'm excited to see how she's going to do.
Yeah, Sky, a lot of fun. You don't get to see too much Sky, but in the right circumstances, I think they made a very good point on the desk. In the right circumstances, there's certainly merit to it, especially when you have Victor on one side. But I mean, the idea is really, it burns through the Inara, it burns through that Makoa, but also if you're onto a Victor, or you're on to a Willow, it's just going to burn them down that much faster. I think Arial Arise have a good draft here that absolutely can work. It kind of hinges, in my opinion, on where and how that Sky is going to be able to maneuver around the map. I mean, these mid-fights are kind of just head-on. There's not really too much flank potential that happens. She's just going to have to poke out, kind of hopefully hope to hit all of her poison bolts, duck back in. So there's going to be some nuance to the way that I think Arial or Rise are going to play with this Sky. Early on, though, they're forcing back Ehrenmanner. They find themselves first blood as well.
Thanks to Poison Bolt, she was actually able to get the kill onto the Makoa with those last couple of shots, able to get the damage and kill confirmed they needed. And now we see the rest of Arial Rise pretty much wreaking havoc up in the high ground. Manages to get the kill onto the Willow. Nara's looking to be next, and she is, but not before Furia falls. But then again, 3 members on Ehrenmanner are down with a potential 4th on the Grover. The shots are coming through, and they do find their mark. 4 individuals are down, with one of them just respawning. Second and third respawning as well. 81% on the point for Arial Rise coming into this match.
Yeah, they're going to get point number 1 here. I mean, that's just the way that Ice Mines goes, especially when Arial Rise has been essentially holding that mid since the beginning of the game. By the time they forced back Ehrenmanner, they had 50, 60% on it. Already the Sky making a bit of a splash here, 3-0, 2 top damage dealers in the game. Vivian, Parasoleil piloting that one, certainly holding his own as well. Top of the damage chart, so doing a little bit more than just holding his own. And I've liked what I've seen out of the Sky so far. I mean, Ehrenmanner now being able to force back Arial Rise, but I've liked what I've seen out of the Sky. I was interested to watch kind of how they maneuvered around, given that it's much more of just a head-on, I'm going to try to poke you out, shred you down kind of damage instead of the sort of traditional flank style that Sky has. And it seemed to work out. I mean, just kind of poke out, hit a few poison bolts, hopefully be able to follow up with a little bit of damage behind it as well. But it all seems to be working out for them right now. Unfortunately, just the way the Ice Mine goes, they lose the fight after the fight, which means they're forced back into their base.
Parasoleil is the first to go down. Just a little bit of an exchange right here. 1 minute, 20 seconds left on the clock for Arial Rise to get back to that point, to push it in, to try and get a potential win here. But it already looks like they're not even going to really be able to make it back. You see how far back it is. They're being pushed almost into their base. A very aggressive zone coming out from Ehrenmanner to make sure they cannot get what they need to, but they're being forced back up just a little bit. They don't want to stay overextended too much. They want to hold this ground right here to make sure that they're in a good enough spot to keep them in their base.
Well, if the payload could move backwards from the midpoint, it would be doing so right now. It's literally exactly where it started with 45 seconds left. I mean, it can be a sneaky fast map if you're pushing and you start to hit some staggers. I don't think that's going to happen here. Ehrenmanner has such firm control with 30 seconds left, the entire map to go. I don't want to call it over before it's over, but I don't see a world where Arial Rise is really able to break out of the zone that Ehrenmanner's put in, especially with the good control that they have. This is where a Willow, this is where a Victor are going to be able to thrive. You're not really under super duress from a Sky flank. You could go through long, which is where Alex Kidd elected to go this time around. I believe Sky, that is the Vivian instead that's right next to her. So they're just going to back off here. They're not going to lose anybody. Maybe you'll get a hair of progress on this payload, but provided that your team doesn't get absolutely swept if you're Ehrenmanner here, you know, things are pretty much done and dusted. But this is where it gets interesting. It is kind of a long map, but depending on how heavy this stagger is, this payload moves very, very, very quickly around this corner here. I mean, the choke points are unforgiving, but the actual path the payload follows, if you're able to break it, not that long.
4%, not 4%, 4 ultimates online for both Ehrenmanner and Arial Rise, with the 5th one in the works for both teams. And really, that aggressive zone, oh, there goes the bomb, throwing it like a grenade, actually ends up clearing out both Willow and Grover, just for a little bit though, keeping them on their toes, making sure they don't actually just push up or hold that little choke point area right there a little bit too far. But Sky, man, she's looking to deal some damage to this Willow, forcing her all the way back. With Faithfly online though, it's going to mean a lot, but them killing that Terminus, it's going to be a little bit more, you're going to need a little bit more than that.
Yeah, a little bit too little, a little bit too late there. I mean, by the time that they were on the payload moving it forward, that overtime meter was going to melt away the moment that anyone stepped off of it. At this point, it is the Terminus who was drawing that card, and once he went down, that overtime meter ceased to exist very much. Codriser 4-1-3. It's only died once on that defensive end. You know, plus late on the Terminus has kind of drawn that frontline heavy card. Ehrenmanner, though, with a great defense, really prioritizing the Wreckers here. I mean, going through the Ash shield, going through the Vivian shield as well. I think that has plenty of merit to it here in this case. So solid defense from Ehrenmanner. I mean, if you lose the mid fight, and then also end up getting staggered out after it, that's when that payload has a really high chance of going in. But they didn't allow Arial Arise back onto the point until 10 seconds left.
Right, come out to make sure they actually can get something started. And almost immediately they do find the damage on the Terminus, but he's looking for Sky. He wants to see where she's at. She knows he's in that room just for a little bit, but them getting a kill onto Anar is going to be a lot. Followed by that Grover. They're going to have to find some way to get themselves started, but it already seems like Ehrenmanner is using the Ancient Rage very defensively, trying to get this Terminus off of him just a little bit, trying to back up, trying to make sure he doesn't get picked off, but it looks like Arial Arise is in no mood to play around. They do manage to find the kill they need, 51% on the point. They might actually just get this. Like, it's hard to make this little comeback from.
There's somebody still mounted up around the backside there.
Interesting.
I mean, this is nothing else other than a touch to start overtime because it's going to get melted. He has no healing around him just yet. Once those poison bolts hit, it'll likely spell the end for Anar. I mean, maybe Ehrenmanner are able to get in and get a touch now. Victor's going to get dismounted. I think that Arial Arise have that one sealed up. So I guess a smart thought there from the Inara. Oh, they're not going to. Okay, they now finally capture the point as the Sky moves forward. So the Sky was my big question mark coming into this one. I've seen it now on the mid fight. On the offensive push, which I don't know if that really counted because we didn't really get to see a whole lot of the Sky. But there's just so much control, honestly, from Arial Arise. The Ashe assert dominance is playing a huge role in this one. Vivian, you're looking long range, trying to deal with the Vivian in the back line while Ashe is really running at you. And then to top it all off, you have a Sky who, with just a few shots, a few abilities, can kind of evaporate your health bar. So Arial Arise have, I think, a very well-rounded composition for mid-fighting. And they're playing it a little bit better here on this next push. Not quite all the way pushed back. Ernest, though, is going to try to stop it as best as he can. It's going to start moving backwards.
Sure. I mean, Willow's taking this little, just positioning herself right around this corner so she has active cover it is that she can use. Make sure she can get a couple of these shots off. They are pushing a little bit more forward. Ehrenmanner trying to get this aggressive zone going on. Well, really, it's not really an aggressive zone. It's more so just a zone, a really defensive zone in this case. Holding that choke point, also making sure they're watching the flex. You see the Willow immediately goes up the stairs to try and counteract that Terminus. There's some damage on the way coming in. The Sky Bomb does go out, though. That's definitely going to clear a point. Make sure they actually get off of it. And Makoa going down is going to be the start of Arial Arise pushing it.
Yeah, I'm terrified right now. All I see is a Sky go into stealth and then start sprinting at my team with an Inflame at her back, and that's exactly what happens here. You don't get any kills with the Time Bomb, but honestly what it does is forces Ehrenmanner onto their back foot, and then you hit the Inflame. So you have one team recoiling backwards, another team suddenly sprinting at you. And that's sort of a fast break in traditional sports. One team's trying to run back and get to defense as fast as they can, and the other team is sprinting at them trying to score as fast as they can. And usually there's some sort of an advantage going for the offensive team. Arial Arise kind of break that first choke point here. 22 seconds left, still one more choke point to go. But the Faithlight not finding too much value here just as of yet. They're going to back off and stay a little healthy. So well played, honestly, on that sudden surge from Arial Arise.
Damage coming off from Willow is going to be a lot, especially them in this choke point right here. Throwing out the seedlings, trying to make sure she can get some damage. They aren't end up falling directly to where the point is, though.
But I mean, stay alive.
Terminus needs to stay alive in this case. I agree, Dave, because last time it was he died, they ended up losing that round. So I would highly 110% say that he needs to stay alive at least for this game. Kinetic Burst to make sure that Makoa does not get on the point. But this Sky Man is going to be a lot. I don't know. Oh, that sucks. They actually, I could tell Terminus was thinking whether he should revive or not, or whether they wanted to stay committed because they all were solo. But Sky was getting the kill she needed. So it was like that middle ground of like, okay, do we really need to do something here? Like, can we push this in?
I agree, I think, with the idea to hold on to it. You know that your mid-fight has just looked better in general throughout this game. And, Terminus ult's one of those where it's a slower charge rate just by its nature, and then also the way Terminus plays. You're not doing a lot of consistent long-range damage. You're relying on those melee attacks, so you're not getting all those damage, charge points as frequently. So you really have to think hard about when you want to use that, realizing that you're only going to get one or two the entire game. So when you use it, it needs to be the point in the game that needs the reanimate here. So I don't mind him holding on to it. What you never want to have happen is have a game end without you using it.
Oh.
It is going to be a huge fight, though. Dead zone into a lot of stack damage for Ehrenmanner.
For sure, the barrage comes through to get a lot of damage. First 2 shots doing so much to Arial Arise, forcing them all back and away from the point. Turbis is there, though. He rises, make sure that he can actually live, but it's not going to find any kills. But Ehrenmanner has no problem finding not 3, but 4 of them, with one of the members just respawned.
That reanimate, I don't mind it. I mean, keeps his team, instead of all the way pushed back, just kind of pushed back, except here is where that harsh, icy cold unforgiveness of Ice Mines comes out to play. So people going long from Arial Arise, maybe for a little bit of a flank. Naturally, that would be the Sky. At 72%, maybe a chance here for Arial Arise. Maybe a shoulder bash gets them in range, and that's what they're going to maybe try to do. But no time to waste. It doesn't look like just yet they're going to be able to get into range, and Ehrenmanner get their first point cap.
Yeah, they do, but this is literally what we just saw, like about, what was it, like 2 rounds ago at this case, where they capped the point, then all of a sudden that first kill comes out, and now Arial Arise is the one pushing them back into base. Now we're in a situation where they have to make sure that they need to find an answer, and quick, because the last time they got back onto the point, they were able to touch it, but it was already overtime at that point when they had reached it. So I would definitely consider them to really try and think this one through, try and make sure they can find a way back to point like they need to.
Yeah, they're doing that right now, and it looks like they're at least going to get the payload somewhat moving forward. Yeah. Honestly, Ernest around the back end here. It's been a quiet game to start off from this Willow, but really started to make big plays. The damage stack as well as the anti-heal with the barrage was so well played by Ehrenmanner at the beginning of that last fight, stacking everything that you can. So well played by them. Faithlight as well could get this one moving a little bit faster. Arial Arise now staggered out. And, Sky is not going to be super happy alone. The stealth is going to be hurt out here, and they're likely going to clean up the Sky after a few hit shots. And it's Ernest who ends up cleaning that one up. So yeah, I really enjoy the way the Willow has started to get played. Bit of a slower start, but the Faithlights have started to be good coming down the line here. And now, despite being on defense the entire game, Ehrenmanner have a chance to win it.
The shots are coming out, though. She knows they're on those stairs, getting so much damage off the blast flower, just making sure that they don't get what they need to. But the hook onto Ash is going to mean a lot. 50 seconds left on the clock. Trying to push in, but Paraslay finding 2 kills of his own. Man, oh man, it's going to mean something, especially when they have to make that long trek all the way back to the point, especially if both those 2 go down. Willow does find her death, but so does Inara Grover, being the only ones left on the battlefield for Ehrenmanner to be able to push up this far. And now he's going to wait for them 30 seconds. I don't know what to say at this point. I don't even know if they can really make it back effectively.
I think mounted, shell spin, something along those lines, they'll be able to at least get in range maybe for a touch. Now almost entirely dismounted. Paraslay probably going to hold on to those Sentinels just in case. Well, not now. If you held on to them, it was because you didn't want to fight here towards the end. If you use them, it's because you realize that a fight is probably coming. If Paraslay is able to stay alive, then it makes absolute sense. You're going to be able to charge him up as well, so it might make sense anyway. Time Bomb is going to come out, so one more shot at this for Ehrenmanner.
That's the thing, though. Time Bomb does go down. Didn't really find a lot of mileage. 1-for-1 trade on both Arial Arise and Ehrenmanner with 2 kills coming out. Never mind, 3 kills coming out from Paraslay to make sure they can get something started for themselves, and that would be it. 3-3 on Ice Mines now. They have the Inflame left. They still have the Resurrect, which are both really good ultimates. Ultimates, I would say, for next round as well. But Ehrenmanner, I believe, if I saw it correctly, they have 3 or 4 ults online currently. Yeah, it's 4.
Yeah, so they have enough to play with. That Willow ultimate, the Faithlight, will be charging up relatively quickly. Quick's faded. 10-8 and 13, a quiet game. I mean, it's been a good game, but somewhat quiet. I mean, I guess that's the nature of victory. You just kind of chill back and do damage and hope that it works out. Lots of Illuminate for the Sky. Cauterize 3s, Wrecker 3 starting to come online. That's the case, obviously, for both teams. Haven, notably, I think they're really trying to mitigate as much as of that Victor damage as they can on the Arial Arise side. Hard to do because of how much damage Victor truly can do. Paraslay did use the Sentinels towards the end of the last round. They did find themselves a good defense, which tied things up. So I say worth in my book, especially if they started off like this.
Oh, in flame followed by Barrage. The dead zone went down as well, forcing all the rest of Arial Rise to push out, but Makoa's here, boinking one after the other. Oh my goodness! That was...
Back they go. That's the hook into the knockback, and that's the interaction you get from that one. A triple kill from Ernest.
Oh my goodness.
They just seal this one up, and now they can zone at Arial Rise. They're on defense the entire time. They have one mid-cap under their belt, and now they're looking for a zone, and they're looking for win number 2.
Man,
It is a funny interaction.
no, it is, because it's like, to me, logically, that does make sense. I'm like, if you get the pull while he's pulling and he gets knocked back, they should follow you in that situation. But I wasn't expecting it to look like that, because the kinetic burst, I could tell he did that to try and save Furia, but she still went down on the wall as well. Just put it right up. Gotta make sure she zones out a little bit of damage, but both Makoa and the Willow are so low,
Yeah,
and
wow.
Nara goes down, followed by the Makoa. Willow barely manages to live that out, healed by Grover, make sure he's alive. Grenade thrown out as well. Terminus eating a little bit of damage. The Siphon is up to keep himself in this situation, but you drop down.
Ended up getting the shots onto Ernest as well, and now the victor is gone. And while it looked like Ehrenmanner were poised to win it, Arial Rise have retaken. They found the kill onto the damage dealers, and I think they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I'm sure too. They immediately get the kill onto the Nara. Makoa was a little bit too far back in that below region of the high ground, like on those little bridges. He was underneath there, a little bit too far back, had to use the shell spin to even get in there, so there was no way he was making it back in time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good return to how the beginning of the game went for them in that case. I mean, you get 2 caps back-to-back. You're not able to capitalize, push it through. You then lose the offense, or the next mid-fight, excuse me. On the opposite side, things are tied up at 3-3 somehow. And almost, I mean, your back's against the wall. You're about to lose the game. And then they're able to seal things up. They push back into mid and find those very important kills there towards the end. A lot of good damage, honestly. From the Sky and from the Vivian in this case, disappeared a little bit towards the mid of that game, ended up coming back around towards the end. Alex Kidd had I think a pretty decent assert dominance to kind of seal that game up. It wasn't on the point. He was really relying on Pluslade on the Terminus to be able to contest that point while he was off of it. But well played on that final fight there, especially kind of the fadeaway shot onto Ernest, getting rid of that Willow, so important at 16-6. You had to find a way to deal with it. Pluslade did towards the end, and that helped Arial Rise win.
Yeah, I mean, Paraslay, I mean, what can you really say about him? The 11, 10, and 16 was really so good. The Vivian coming online once again. We saw it on Bazaar last time. We see it again this time. Vivian being who she is just really making sure that they can rise up to the occasion. But of course, the Sky as well. 15, 8, and 10. Codriser doing so well with the placement of the bombs, just his damage in general. If it's one thing Sky can do well, she can melt tanks.
Yeah, I mean, a tough sort of mid-game here in this case, and this is sort of where I think the Sky could do very well or not as well in Ice Mines, because it's kind of a linear map, not too many areas to get around behind enemy players. I mean, the mid-fight, it's basically 2 teams running at one another. It's sort of this chaos, and this was the incredible push. I loved the way they used that. They toss out the time bomb, and then everyone is frantically trying to run backwards and communicate, oh, they're running at us. You have Inflame, a little extra movement speed, a little extra damage, all of that fun stuff. Right at their back. I mean, you got the wind at your backs. You're trying to back up away from it. The time bomb, if you try to stand there, you're going to die. So well-laid 1-2 punch. I don't think they ended up pushing that one in, but the way that team fight went, pretty indicative of the way they're performing as a team.
Yeah, for sure. Arial Rise definitely waking up. Currently with a score for 2-1. Right after this break, we'll be right in game 4.
SteelSeries, the official peripheral provider of the Paladins Console League.
Well, it turns out that a 4-0 slap on Jag Falls is exactly what you need to wake up on a Monday morning to kind of get things back in your favor, and that's exactly what they are able to do here. I mean, Arial Arise has been slowly but surely getting themselves victories. It's a long burn, but they get there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they had that map pretty dominantly in control. The Sky was a great pick for them, but the only mid they lost was, I think, a small misstep on the Terminus reanimate. They used it at like 20% roughly, so didn't have it for the retake or any potential like that. So it was really hard for them to forget that fight. And that's the only fight they lost, really, was just that one, I think, on that big mid.
Yeah, just a couple of slip-ups here and there, but nothing big. It's been really solid from them so far. And this is kind of more of what, like, these last two games have been more indicative of what I expected out of this set than what we got in the first game, right? So being able to kind of look at it, it's going to be a 2-1 lead right now for Arial Arise, so we'll have to see where Ehrenmanner want to go next to try and keep things alive for them. Splitstone Corey is the next one up on the chopping block for them. And, I mean, those 4 threes, like, they're screaming out loud. This is another map that can go the distance.
Yeah, I mean, Arial's been able to clutch up. I mean, Ehrenmanner have been putting up a fight, absolutely, but Arial's the one that's making the difference in these last fights. And Splitstone, another map that can go 4-3. It's not the easiest to push. It's definitely easier than some others, but it's definitely not, Bright Marsh levels of easy.
It's one of those things, so I guess like when we talk about maps, we always mention choke points and the various spots on the map where things can stop. Splitstone just happens to have like 4 of them, maybe 5 if I'm thinking about it, because every single catwalk, if you think about it, is going to give at least one sort of high ground advantage to one team. And that kind of slows things down when you're trying to push it in. But we'll have to see if, either Arial Arise or Ehrenmanner can draft a draft that will give them exactly what they need to find that push. Genos, Victor, Eevee, and Talus all going to be banned out. Eevee is only surprising, not just because of the map, it makes it unsurprising, but where we are and console makes it very surprising.
I mean, we've seen Eevee on console more so recently than, because we really didn't see her at all phase 1, right? But I think we've seen her, I want to say twice so far.
And I will give credit. Last week, I think we saw one, and it blew my mind. It was hands down one of the best Eevees I think I've seen on console ever.
Well, this is the place where you're going to see the best Eevees you've ever seen on console, in the console league itself. Makoa Vivian for Arial Arise, kind of been a theme, those two being picked together, but on this map, it's great for quarry control. The Vivian's able to have the sensor drone on one side and lava to prevent themselves from getting flanked. Makoa has great control in that quarry side, so they have a good fight there, and Inara's only going to make that even better.
I'm going to tell you my favorite thing about the console league right now.
Please do.
Things that are priority. It's so interesting because Atlas has been banned every game so far.
Yeah.
He finally makes it through, and typically what we see is once you leave that ban phase down there, you're one of the first pick grabs.
Oh, yeah.
But Tyra, Makoa, Vivian are all still so strong that he gets left behind for it. And like that's the thing I love about it, is just it's so versatile, but at the same time, they know exactly what they want. And, well, we do finally get our Alice, who gets to come through. He's locked in there with the Barrack, the Leon, the Tyra, and the Grover. Willow being hovered here for Arial Arise. How are you feeling about these drafts?
I want to give the edge to Arial because I feel like Atlas is going late because he's counterable on this map where you have so much distance. And Vivian, Willow, I think they can put on that enough spam pressure to keep the Atlas from getting in, to not let him do what he does on some other maps.
Everyone in chat who's an Ehrenmanner fan is upset with you about that one, but they're excited. I think this is going to be a pretty good one. I'm really excited to see what this Atlas can do. Of course, it's going to be difficult. Makoa, Vivian, and Nara has been a pillar for these last 4 games, really, as it's come down. So we're just going to see who can knock the other out. Can Arial Arise take this one home now? Can Ehrenmanner stay alive? Let's go down to the casters to find out.
Hi, guys. It's me. It's Fawn again. And Dolson's here, too.
That's right. It's still me. I'm still here. You know, for a team whose logo is a flying plane with like boxing gloves on, they sure don't play a lot of Drogos, who I think would be a perfect champion for the Arial Arise squad. I haven't seen it very often here. Split Zone Quarry, probably not the best Drogos map anyway. This is going to be a fun one to watch, though. This is the first time, I mean, you know, Barrack's kind of in that conversation of, you know, kind of premier point tanks can do a lot of good damage as well. But, you know, it's always Atlas and Makoa that are banned out. And console, Makoa tends to be let through in lieu of some other bans on the opposite side, usually, you know, a Talus or something similar. So this is our first example of really getting to see a Makoa and an Atlas go toe-to-toe in a long time. So I'm excited to see how this one plays out. Already, Makoa's getting the worst for wear in that case. They have a Tyra at their back. I mean, there's just going to be too much damage, I think. I mean, technically, he's a frontliner. Technically, he's a frontliner, but he just does way too much, especially with Hunting Party.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually about to make a quick point of that about how Arial Rise's team is good, but I don't know if their Tyra Hunting Party good to be able to keep themselves alive in this case, because they just got run down right there.
I mean, it's just the easiest thing. I mean, because it's damage amp for everyone onto that target.
Right, exactly.
It's not conditional like Genos, where you stick it on your damage dealer and hope that they can do damage.
Right. If
they're forced back, then that Astral Mark kind of is worthless for a few seconds. I mean, this is, as long as somebody is poking at the champion that the Hunting Party mark is on, they are going to get shredded a little bit faster. King Nick on the high ground, though, does trade out here. This is a way back in for Arial Arise, much less of a threat now for the Makoa, except for, I guess, the Grover. Ehrenmanner looked to seal this one up.
Yeah, for sure. Crossfire was gonna be used, but actually, the stun actually allowed her to choose not to use that. She's like, you know what? Maybe that wasn't a good time for me to use my ult. I guess we'll save it for the next occasion. Atlas being posted up here in the bleachers, making sure that he's up in that high ground and controlled right eye level with Paraslay, forcing him back. Shots from Atlas, fully charged, going to be 900 with that damage, and with Hunter's Party being applied, it's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, to break this choke point, it's really going to be a frontline battle. I mean, if the Atlas goes down, there's so much less to round this corner. Anara's, you know, nice and good and healthy, but it's not going to really forge you to victory around these corners here. It's really Atlas's job, and it's Makoa's on the opposite side to keep you into it. Ultimate's starting to fly, though, as this fight breaks out.
Yeah, Faded finding not one, but two kills. One onto Makoa, the other onto their healer, Furia. It's going to mean a lot, but the blaster damage from Willow is going to mean a lot, too. But at the same time, keep saying one after the other. 4 were down on Arial Arise. One of them just respawning. The Makoa's back. Now Willow's down. Now Tyra's doing whatever it is she feels like, because whatever mark it is that she has, she's been fighting them and she's been killing them.
Yeah, it's kind of a gross amount of damage when you really look at it. I mean, Makoa was standing there, got Hunting Party marked, was fired on for maybe a second total, and was at like a quarter health. I mean, Makoa is strong on the opposite side, though. I mean, it's not like a super imbalance, but my point being, you can't face tank a Tyra and miss your hook. If you hooked in Tyra, that's a lot different. You miss the hook, suddenly Tyra is free to fire on you. Payload very, very close to going through here.
Yeah, for sure. The kill comes out onto Anar as well. Willow being forced all the way back. Paraslay going down very last second. 4 ultimates online for Ehrenmanner, 2 for Arial Arise. The Inflame is coming up, but I don't know if it's going to be enough for them to be able to make this fight just come back. But here it is in the beginning. You see the power of Hunter's Party and also just Tyra. It's why these nerfs that are upcoming are going to hit her so hard, because you see what she's doing right now. She doesn't have access to that anymore. It's going to be a pain for her.
I mean, 407. That's the power of the Tyra, but also Arial Arise. I mean, they were so grouped up right there. They were looking to take that bleacher section first, and they just did not get there. They didn't commit to it quick enough. And then you have, like you said, Hunting Party as well as an Atlas. He's going to throw up that wall. Once that wall's up, they can free trade on you, and you're way too grouped. You're in a bad spot. Arial Arise just took way too much damage at the beginning of that last round, and then didn't effectively trade down the stretch. That allowed Ehrenmanner to push this one through. They're going to have fast cap Arial Arise, Will. I mean, a little bit of an advantage, already taking advantage of that, but they're going to need to win the fight here, and another early kill onto the healer is not good.
It's literally the same situation we were just in. The Ancient Rage to pop it to do something, but Crossfire just so happens to be used at the exact same time. I really think Arial Arise does not need to keep trying to contest this choke point right here next to Fidget Spinners, because they're dying so quickly. That Divider's literally covering up most of that area. Tyra's going to put on a mark, whoever it is she feels like, and as you see, Leon and the rest of them are already posted up in high ground. They're firing on whoever it is they feel like. It's hard for Arial Arise to find an opening.
Yeah, it's very tough. I mean, the Vivian hasn't had a chance to sit back and really wind up those guns just yet. Paraslay finding the kills there. Enlightenment, I believe, did actually end up getting used there. We'll have to see when the respawn from Leon comes out. Yeah, so back down to 0 for that one. I mean, Arial Arise with a good defensive stand here. I mean, you could argue maybe they swap over to the lava side here on now the left side of your screen and kind of fight downward from there. But it's sort of hard. I mean, that might be a spot where Willow's able to kind of flank around the backside. Arial Arise you know, they're grouped up, but Ehrenmanner are as well down on the fidget spinner side. So it's, you know, one team's got to take advantage of the other. In this case, the extra damage from the Tyra, I think, is really winning the day. Fighting those corridors with the Atlas wall out in front of you is just so much extra help in this case. So yeah, I mean, a change of scenery, maybe not a bad idea for Arial Arise. But they might not have the chance to do that if they're not able to defend this one.
Yeah, I agree. They ended up pushing up 890 health for Nick right there. The rewind, though, is not quite up yet, but at this point, it's a little bit too late to try and use it. Yeah, it's going to go back. Yeah, exactly. It's going to be just a little bit too late to use the rewind at that point when it came up. Wasn't actually able to get him back to full health where he was, but it is enough just to barely keep him alive. No one's really going to try and push against this Tyra or against the rest of them. It's so hard for them to find an opening with that hook, and also the kill on Tyra is going to mean something for Arial Arise.
Yeah, but a minute left is really where my eyes go. You're right in that it's a great defense from Arial Arise, and the 2 picks onto arguably the 2 most important people from Ehrenmanner. So well played there from them. I mean, this game has really been dominated by the Tyra Atlas combination. I feel bad because it's kind of like the Leon, Barrick, Rover have kind of disappeared into the midst of all this chaos here, but they're certainly doing their jobs. At 7 and 17 on the streaks here for Ehrenmanner. I mean, everyone is doing their jobs. I mean, there's got to be someone alive, someone available to take advantage of the damage that Tyra is providing, take advantage of the healing that Grover is providing. And you know, Ehrenmanner are just playing it to a T. They have a well-rounded composition here. Quick's faded. This is an area where maybe the Leon starts to shine a little bit more. The high ground firing down, a little bit longer ranges of engagement here in this case. 15 seconds left. Arial Arise, though, maybe looking poised for their first point.
Yeah, for sure. The slide to make sure Leon can get out of there just a little bit. Arial Arise definitely going to be able to defend this one, especially with the kill on Atlas and Ehrenmanner backing up. I'm really hoping this is not the same situation we've been seeing before, and Ehrenmanner could actually manage to close this one out, because we did see this exact same scenario, 3-1 on Bazaar, doing so well. Yeah, I mean, and then Arial Arise just comes back, sweeps him under the rug.
I mean, unless the dead zone is great from Parasoleil, which, I mean, some of them have been this game, you're not going to win a grouped fight against a Tyra Atlas Grover. I mean, that's how they want to fight here in this case. And, you know, Arial Arise have gotten a few picks towards the mid. They started off that last round a lot better. I mean, you maybe flank around, send the Vivian somewhere else, but fighting these big grouped up fights, knowing the way Ehrenmanner want to fight, I think it's Nick who brings this up, and he makes a very good point. When you pick Grover onto Splitstone Core, you know the way that team wants to fight, and it's grouped up in the bleacher section because that's where they do their best. They're opting to go down there again this time around, and you know, I don't see the results being any different. Yeah,
neither do I. The Inflame is popped, but you saw the damage come out onto the Willow as well, and really the rewind to keep himself alive. You've seen that this happened two times before now, and they still went over here to make sure they could try and fight, but it's been going bad the entire time. Stop trying to fight him in the corner. Just make sure that you actually concede it, try and control high ground, and make sure you can actually do something about it. Faded finds 2 kills for himself. The Enlightenment is there. Barrick does have Doe Shield as well. It's going to be really hard for Arial to be able to come back.
Yeah, I mean, they'll trade out their lives here if it just means delaying them getting back to that midpoint. Enlightenment into the shield there for COD Riser. 81% is where we stand now on the mid. King Nick, though, both the Kings staying alive, trading out some kills. Overtime is going to begin, though.
Yeah, Paraslay ends up going down almost instantly as well. The rest of Arial Arise going to try and find a way back to point. Overtime is ticking down. Makoa and Codriser find kills of their own, but 21 health. The healing from Furia just before Vivian goes down. How is he still alive, actually? I'm confused about that, too.
There's good healing from the Furia around the corner and maybe 1 or 2 missed shots around the backside. He stays alive, finds himself a kill. Fast cap on the back end of Arial Arise. You know, despite how one side of this game may have looked, they may be poised to get their second point.
Yeah, I mean, but Makoa and the rest of them are really just here. Tyra and Atlas, both 2 kills. This is going to be extremely hard for them to be able to fight back. I mean, Anar, Alex Kidd's trying to make sure he does what he can, but he's too staggered off from the rest of his team. Furia is there, Inflame to give herself a little bit of immunity, but it's not going to be enough to be able to combat that.
I mean, we said it so many times throughout the cast there, but I mean, you're going up against a Grover, a Tyra, and Atlas. I mean, I'll name everyone on the roster, but the way that core is built around those 3 champions, you know exactly how they're looking to fight because that's where they're at their best. I mean, the hunting party mark's always going onto the priority targets. If it goes onto a Makoa, a Tyra alone, if you can dodge out the hook, can oftentimes win that engagement. You know, there were some changes that Arial or Eyes threw out there that, you know, maybe made a little bit of sense. They just, I think too often, though, tried to fight back for that for those bleacher control near the fidget spinner there. I mean, instead of doing that, maybe you opt for the lava side, fight down from the high ground there and look for some picks, because fighting into the Grover, into the Tyra, into the Atlas, with everything they bring. I mean, Leon as well, you can't ignore her. 70k damage, good for 3rd in the game. It's just a little bit too much on the opposite side. There were some moments where Arial or Eyes looked like they could break through that. But, you know, that final mid-fight's a great example. The only reason that was even close towards the end is because a little bit of an overextension from Ehrenmanner staggered them out on the backside.
223 for the Grover, but 8-3 and 16, 100,000, over 100,000 damage on the Tyra. Faded as well, doing extremely good. I'm glad that you mentioned that too. 13, 6, and 4. The damage being so big for him. The Leon played a pivotal role as well. The presence, all she really was doing, well, not all she was doing, but most of what she was able to land that damage. Tyra and Alice were able to clean it up.
Yep.
She was able to get so much going. And you see it here, just all the damage. She was able to do a little bit too.
Yeah, I mean, when we bring up Tyra, Atlas, Grover so much because that's what this composition's really built around. And this is where Quick Faded is really able to thrive. I mean, the Leon just sits back, sees where the hunting party marks are going, realizes there's not too much of a threat up in the face of that Leon. And, you know, you saw towards the end, you know, some of those deaths were just, all right, I'm going to go out, I'm going to zone as hard as I can. I might lose my life for it, but I'm going to delay them nonetheless. I mean, that was a well-drafted game, a perfectly fought game there from Ehrenmanner. We got a game 5 now.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up making sure that they not necessarily did the reverse sweep, but made sure they got their momentum back. And now that we're sitting at 2-2, Game 5 will be happening, but it'll only be right after this break.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the Paladins Console League.
Well, it's going to be a Game 5 here for the first set of the day. Both these teams putting their best foot forward, and with Ehrenmanner tying it up. No matter what, you can say Arial Arise has improved from the last time they played each other, since it was a 3-1. But at the end of the day, this is just, again, showcasing how strong the competition is when you just pull Flashpoint out of the equation for a second.
Yeah, and it shows that, I mean, if they're this competitive with each other, they have these crazy matches with these crazy plays. I mean, maybe with some time, they could even compete with Flashpoint too. You know, I mean, Flashpoint's been around for a long time, but these players clearly know what they're doing, and they could pull it out if they given the time.
Well, looking through all of it, of course, at the very end, we highlighted someone who I think had a very, very big impact. Quicks on the Leon did incredibly well, and that was just one of those things. It was so refreshing, I think, to see a Leon have such a huge impact, because she used to be like,
Leon do well.
Yeah, right. Okay, but it was she just used to be one of the premier champions on console. Like, she was almost guaranteed picked every single game, up there with your victors, right? And she just kind of laid low for a little while. A lot of teams don't have Cassie in their pocket. A lot of teams don't have the Leon. Or they do have the Leon, maybe they don't go to her as often. So maybe it's a split stone quarry thing. Maybe it's an any map thing. We'll have to see if they pull it out in the next one as we continue moving forward. The last map, hey, it's a nice Bright Marsh Jag Falls sandwich.
The flat map sandwich, and we had a little bit of flat map bazaar at the top, but some people don't think of that. But yeah, going back to Bright after losing 4-0 on a similar map at the start, interesting decision by Arial after that loss. But I think maybe they just want to snowball. They want to get a really early game comp and just try to dominate that part of the game, make it 4-0.
It could work. That's the thing. That's the thing that's really, really creepy about it. Or weird about it, I guess, either way. Maybe not creepy. Creepy has such a weird connotation. Anyway, that's getting sidetracked. Continuing to move forward. It was interesting as well to see Ehrenmanner have the 4-0, the 4-1 victories, like very commanding victories for them, whereas Arial arises 4-3, 4-3 that they've been able to go through. And like you said, this is a map that doesn't really come to mind as a 4-3, although depending on what sets you watch with it, it has been 4-3s several times. I think Friday, Envy and Renegades went 4-3 here as well in the Premier League. So this will be a battle of who knows Bright Marsh best, as we have the Vivian, the Talus, the Atlas typical bans. Drogo's put his name on the list today.
And that's interesting, because I think that makes me feel like they want to play outside. They don't want to have to deal with the Drogos above. And they're going to play outside. They're going to pick the Tyra so they can burn the point from the outside, kind of on the surrounding areas. So they're going to play that. But Inara, for that point control, I guess they'll dominate that, and then now they have less pressure on their Makoa to control the apartment side.
Yeah, and when things come down to it, again, now I guess this time both damage amps getting through that we typically see in the Tyra and the Genos. But you have the Tyra with the Inara and the Makoa, who, again, I will say this all day, they hit a lot harder than you think they do. And if you aren't paying attention to them, they will kill you. And I think the thing that comes down to this is that with Tyra, they hit even harder.
Yeah, I mean, they both do 600 each. Well, more than 600 each. I mean, 650 for Makoa, I think 675 for Inara. So
yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, being able to do that plus 25%, I mean, that's a chunk. But also, Koga with it too. Koga's actually kind of a counter pick to Tyra because it can cleanse the mark.
The mark, yeah.
So now that they have that on their side, that's a counter pick for Ehrenmanner that they're not going to be able to pull out.
Well, they're going to lock him in, and that was one of the things we saw on Jag Falls that helped facilitate a 4-0 victory there for Ehrenmanner. So it's going to be maybe bringing some control back to Arial Arise. Willow locked in at the very end. Out of these two drafts, which one do you like more?
I like Arial Arise again. I think that Koga Tyra plus the damage boosted tanks is going to be really good.
Well, the question is, can they close it out? Can they seal the deal and Arial Arise keep things spicy? Or will Ehrenmanner come back from their 2-1 deficit and find themselves a victory? Let's go to the casters.
Well, regardless of any of that, we will have a winner at the end of this game. Game 5 is here on Bright Marsh being the final map. Now, that's something we also, well, that I'm not used to seeing, is Bright Marsh as a final map, not one of the first.
Yeah, you're right. Normally, it's kind of one of those first few map picks here, but it is going to be number 5. Arial Arise, though, taking a little bit of a page from what we saw in the last game, adopting it for themselves. They're going to go Grover Makoa Tyra. Similar in nature to how maybe a Grover Atlas Tyra would work. The Koga's kind of the linchpin, I think, in this one. You know, there's got to be a lot of follow-up damage. I think the Leon play in that last game was very good, honestly. I mean, it wasn't the flashiest, and so much focus was kind of put on that mid-area control near the fidget spinner. But the ability to follow up on a lot of the damage that Tyra provides, so important here. And again, opting for a similar strategy, all fighting around with this Grover and looking to kind of forge their way, spearhead their way in there.
I actually like how Ehrenmanner actually took that. Fade, it does get the first kill, though. First blood for Bright Marsh in the very, very last game on Game 5, but I do like how they played that. Ehrenmanner didn't push in immediately. They knew where they were. Willow, they have a blaster character, and I'm so glad that she's popping off right now, because this is exactly where I was about to lead. She's holding this high ground. She knows where they're going, and she's just throwing it. She's just literally being like their sentry drone. She knows where they're going to be. She's throwing it into these choke points, getting these kills. You already see with the movement, moving back and forth, getting damage off too. Like, I liked how they played that. They didn't push in immediately. They all waited back in a group.
That is how you beat that composition.
There we go.
You kite backwards.
Yes.
You force them into you. You try to return as much damage as you can while backing off. Because if you run face first into a Makoa Grover Tyra with some Koga and Inara help, they really just stuck Inara sort of near the point that time, tried to wall off Ehrenmanner, force them back into a corner. But you know, if you fight into that, you're not going to have a good time. So smartly played there by Ehrenmanner. The added presence of this Willow certainly helped in this case. A little high ground presence to advert a little bit of that focus. Really helped out Ehrenmanner, and they get the first point on the board.
Throwing out the ceilings to make sure she covers that exit for Grover, but also for Anara, they find both kills. 3, Tyra, Grover, Anara all dead. The crossfire is there, the whirlwind, but so is Through Time and Space, so is Overpower, so is Barrage with Dome Shield coming up as well. We see Faded holding this little room right here, just peering around that court. He knows somebody's behind there. He knows somebody's going to run out from behind there, and he's ready to fire as soon as they do.
Well, if they drop down, they can't get back up here, so you're going to have to choose your moment correctly.
Oh, this will be it.
This could be a huge Through Time and Space, and it is.
Yeah, I saw that coming from a mile away. They all dropped down. As soon as he saw that, he definitely let it rip, and that was definitely a time to do that. 2 kills already for Ehrenmanner as well, with Alex Kidd potentially being the last one to go down in this case, and he is. Koga really should try and go and touch, or at least anybody, Arial or Raj, just to stall out a little bit more. They had defender's advantage there, but I also respect the fact not to go down there. Don't want to give them ult charge, don't want to give them what it is they need. They want to make sure they carry this into next round pretty smoothly.
Well, that's the awkward part of that defense is, you know, you kind of have, I mean, you literally have to drop down at some point. So stacked up here. Just clipping those toesies on the way down that time around. Codriser drops down, gets the dink on the toes, and heads back to base. Ehrenmanner 6-0-3 for Ernest. He's been honestly amazing in this set. The Tyra last game looked great for him. Played the Ferocity Grover. Kind of fell off, didn't look quite as good on Bazaar. But he's been such a big part of this Ehrenmanner offense. Now up 2-0 and on a good push. I mean, sometimes these Bright Marsh pushes take a good bit of time, lots of choke points to break. But they won that mid so convincingly. They only have 2 deaths on their entire side, 1 kill for 2 people on Arial or Eyes. Yet again, they're going to do the same thing as last time if they're able. Just kind of kite backwards, use a little bit of that range that they have on their side. I mean, Tyra does not have as consistent damage over range as someone like a Victor does, because Victor can zoom in, add in a little burst fire, and out DPS a Tyra from far enough back.
Right.
And same with the Koga. I mean, you're really trying to play aggressive, get in their face, and as long as you can back off, if you're Ehrenmanner, you'll be happy. Right now, though, maybe not enough.
Yeah, I don't know either. Nara and Koga are really just running them down. You just see him going in there, uses the ninja arts to make sure he can get not 1 but 2 kills, a 3rd potentially on Khan, but he's forcing himself to back off just a little bit, giving them some respect as well. Dead zone is down, but the rest of Ehrenmanner are definitely pushed back. Overpower as well. Force pushes him off the side to make sure he cannot get back up, but the wall is not gonna let him in.
Yeah, wow, that's a great wall actually. Right at that final moment, forces him around to the outside. Not enough time to get back into it. Depending on how heavily though they're able to stagger out these kills, it already becomes much harder for Arial or Eyes. You can kind of set up camp here for Ehrenmanner, absorb that pressure as they're respawning out from base. And that's what I mean by sort of consistent good damage from Victor. I mean, we all know how good Victor is. I mean, anyone who's played the game certainly knows. That's where it really comes out to play. 90 health was all that was left there, and Varric makes good on that one. It's a 1-for-1 trade here. But this is where Arial or Eyes will look to start playing a little bit more aggressive. You rush these small corridors, you rush down Ehrenmanner because their composition doesn't work as well when you're being rushed down. And you know, it's sort of who wins the day. Are we able to kite back, deal damage to you from range? Good if you're Ehrenmanner. Or if you're Arial or Eyes, are we able to force you down, run you down, and force you into these close engagements? Good if you're Arial or Eyes, and it's the latter here in this case.
Yeah, I agree. The hook, nice hook coming out from the Makoa as well, managing to snatch that Barrick. Also make sure that he gets the kill on him as well. The payload is pushing in. 1:20 still on the clock as well. Tyra, man, has been such a pivotal player overall. Just 3rd most damage, but at the same time, I don't want to just talk about the damage dealt. I want to see I wish we could see the damage amplify is really what I'm getting at, because the amount of damage it is that she can put out with Hunter's Party is so much for just her entire team to be able to make use of.
A lot is the answer to that one.
Yeah.
That's going to be an overpower, getting rid of the Makoa as well. And actually, this is a composition for Ehrenmanner where they'll feel a little bit more comfortable than Arial or Eyes on the defensive side. I mean, honestly, they'll enjoy, I think, firing back from the high ground, where Ehrenmanner on the opposite side, or Arial or Eyes, excuse me, on the opposite side on their defensive end, they have to jump down. They need to get up in your face to try to defend, where Ehrenmanner, sure, you're going to have to send some people, you're going to have to send some to contest. but a Victor will be much happier to sit back. A Willow will be much happier to sit back and rain down damage from further back than, say, maybe a Tyra or a Koga would.
Yeah, grenade thrown out to make sure
now he's down,
they can keep him. Make sure they can keep him a little bit zoned. Paraslay does go down as well. Tyra stepping into that dead zone, but at the same time, no one's really there to capitalize on that. And one of them just ended up dying. The Khan at most. So you have to make sure they at least give a little bit of respect. Overtime is there. Makoa being in a bad spot. Battle shout coming out from Khan as well. Time and space is there. You can tell that neither team really wants to use ult, but they want to be able to push in, except for the Whirlwind in that case.
And getting rid of the Inara is huge here. I mean, all you have left is Makoa, who's just going to get absolutely melted down. 1-for-1 trade, though, keeps this interesting.
Yeah, for sure. However, Makoa is the next one that goes down. No one else can really touch on the point. You can see that Grover was trying to get there, but Vine grips right into the window. Barrick says hello and immediately pops him for just trying to move in that specific direction. But we see Paraslay here. Koga now, don't see really much in the PPL. Don't really see him much in the PML. But one thing it is that we do know from PCL is that hit scan can mean a lot. And Koga, I feel like, is a perfect example of that because he's able to move so frequently, so efficiently from one point to the next. And it's a lot harder to deal with, I believe, on console.
Yeah, I mean, hit scan really reigns king here. And, I mean, it's a fine pick that, you know, has times where it does work out, has times where it doesn't work out. I mean, in this case, it follows the same thread as kind of what I've been weaving for the rest of this game, where a Koga who's able to get aggressive. I mean, you'll see him maybe play a little bit passively, wait for the rest of his team to rush forward like he's doing now. You see the Inara and the Koga moving in, or the Makoa, excuse me, moving in. A good hook onto Ernest, actually. Really sets the stage for Arial Arise. It's a perfect start from the blue side.
I agree. Seismic Crash comes through. Don't know if it found any targets, but I tell you one thing. Hunter's Party definitely found its mark, actually being able to melt that barrack in almost no time flat. Khan misses the over. Well, actually, I think it was the Mother's Grace. Yeah, it was onto the CC immune Inara, so he wasn't actually able to get it. He tried to do it. I don't know if he was trying to hit who was next to Inara. He could have been, but maybe Inara's a little bit too big for him to be able to sort of thread that needle with. And then in whatever case, they do actually end up missing the overpower. The cost is refunded to at least 30%, and Arial Arise in this case is pushing forward.
Looks like just went on to that Inara there. And Arial Arise have made a good adjustment, really committing on those early game pushes where they kind of danced around the idea in that first mid fight, and Ehrenmanner were able to play their composition just better. And now what you see on these mids is Arial Arise just honestly rushing. They're saying, all right, we might take some damage at first, but if we're able to find the kills, we're going to win these mids. And they get a beautiful hook onto Ernest in that case. Getting rid of the Willow is so important. And then they're able to truly run down just a few straggling members of Arial Arise. The missed overpower. Don't know if it really would have made a difference. I don't know if one kill really would have turned things around. So, I mean, maybe the ideal scenario is where you say, of course, hindsight's 20/20. I don't use the ultimate. I still have it ready now. But if nothing else, at least it goes down to 30% there in that case. About halfway there, though, minute and a half left. Good ultimates ready for Arial Arise. Crossfire could kind of kick down the door. Ehrenmanner maybe a little bit more tentative. They realize they're not going to lose the game here. And honestly, if nothing else, if this one goes through, Arial Arise no longer have fast cap on the next mid. So a lot of stuff to look at here if you're on the red on the defensive side on how you want to rotate your ultimates.
Right, exactly. You see that Arial Arise trying to find some type of opening. They are being pinned down very effectively, burning up a lot of that time. 10 minutes, well, really 11 minutes being elapsed total in this overall game. Paraslay being the first one to go down. Ehrenmanner has all 5 ultimates online, and clearly they don't feel really any pressure. They haven't really been forced to use their ultimates in this scenario. Codriser does go down next. Tyra goes down. Inara and Makoa find themselves in a bad spot as well, but not before he's trying to make sure he can get this Victor. But this Victor, man, he's running around that tree. Makoa can't catch him.
Apparently Victor's mobile. I mean, you see him jumping around, dancing around the tree. Less late, unfortunately, not able to find that final kill. Ernest, though, does go down to start this one off. That's how the mid-fight was lost for Ehrenmanner. 15 seconds remaining. Certainly in range of getting a touch onto that payload. It's how these next few trades go. If Ehrenmanner are able to get a few kills here, they're going to defend. But Arial Arise really running down this mid.
Yeah, I agree. The Willow actually does get a kill on the Paraslay. 2 kills for Arial Arise, man. And actually, they're cleaning up right now. 4 ultimates online. All he had to really use was the crossfire. Willow's just standing down there. She's not really contesting. She's standing behind the point, really, trying to go for Grover. or somebody to make sure she can apply that pressure. She's in a good spot, too. No one can really contest her from where she is, especially with Anara being burnt down on point. They have to answer the Willow, and I do like, I really like that. I liked her flying back there, applying pressure onto both Grover and Tyra. They weren't really able to focus on the Anara to keep her up there, and because of that, Willow was just able to literally zone off 2 people. Anara went down, and they were able to net that win for them.
Yeah, well played from Ernest there. 10-3 and 14 is where he stands. Filleted on the Genos this time around, 3-2 and 23. Always have to give your nod to a well-playing support player, and that's certainly the case here. They're going to have 5 ultimates ready to go, Ehrenmanner are. Only the crossfire down for Arial Arise. And, you know, for Ehrenmanner to win this, I need them to kind of go back to what they were doing in the early game. And sometimes it's out of their hands. I mean, if Arial Arise are really just playing that aggressively, no matter how far back you play, you tend to just get run down. So it's not losing the opening pick and then also forcing them to kind of slow play, poking them out too much, not allowing them to immediately rush in. Doing a good job of it right now. Dome Shield and Faith Light both use. That's going to force them back just a little bit.
Yeah, I agree as well. Willow's trying to do what she can. Trying to zone them out just a little bit. They know that she's using Faith Fly, so they know she's in an area they really can't see or try and contest. They don't have a blast with their own, really. But Kogo's in a good spot. He's going to end up ulting. He does find Khan, and as well as the through time and space, does find Paraslave. But we see these kills. It's like a chat log right now. It's like all these names are just popping up. No one knows who it's really coming from. But the Barrage does end up getting a double kill. Anara on the point being the only one left. That's going to mean a lot. Faded with the triple kill for Bright Marsh. This might net them, maybe net them again.
Yeah, I mean, that was a checkerboard of a kill feed there. 87% now for Ehrenmanner. The respawns are back from Arial Arise. These next few kills likely going to decide the game.
Yeah, here we go. The flight to actually make sure she can actually move up and get the kill. Cauterizer does go down, but thanks to Faded, Seismic Crash, you are not welcome here. Willow is about to go down. She does. Vcon finds one of his own. Anara and Grover are really just doing what they can to make sure they defend the point, but he gets hooked right out of Barrage. Very, very well done. 75% on the point for Arial Arise, steadily building.
Going to a 3-3.
Genos has to back up too.
They got it. I mean, Arial Arise tie up this game. I mean, well fought from Ehrenmanner to start off. They overextend on the zone, lose just maybe one too many. Literally, maybe just one person.
Right.
And they're already forced back. Continuing the aggression, though, Arial Arise. They realize that if they start running at Ehrenmanner, stagger him out, this payload much easier at moving forward here. Somebody's got to go back and assist it along its way here. Now it starts moving. I mean, the Victor's doing what Victor needs, doubling up everybody on the side of Arial Arise, and that's sort of a good indicator of the kind of stay back, fire away that I was talking about. I mean, if you're able to dive on the Victor with a little bit of damage amp, not nearly as effective, but he's going to do this if he's allowed to free fire.
Yeah, exactly. The nade is being thrown out as well. He's just chucking them, making sure he can zone them out, get as much gripped up damage as he can without directly using Barrage. But this is really rounding that corner. They haven't really been able to go out and contest, but at the same time, Ehrenmanner's just done such a good job at holding this point. This part right here, where the payload is just coming up above the hill, that is going to mean a lot depending on what they can do. But with Khan going down, man, that might mean something. That might mean this game is over.
It's a very big hook, but an important trade back through time and space. Gets a little bit of clip, but no kills just yet. Ehrenmanner holding on with everything they can. Paraslay trying to trade back here. The respawns, remember, will be closer for the defending team here, so the kills so much more important for Arial Arise.
Yeah, for sure. For sure that he can actually zone as hard as he can. The damage from Khan is coming out too. Storm of Bullets being so powerful in this case. Just melting some of these squishier targets and finishing off the Anar that was already low. Fada finding one of his own on the Tyra as well. 40 seconds left on the clock. Really, Ehrenmanner has to find some type of zone. The Barrage is still up, but if I would be more worried about the Ancient Rage that's going to be there, especially if Makoa decides he needs to dive to make sure his team can push this in.
They've been using Whirlwinds very early in these pushes as well. I mean, maybe just realizing some of the guys on Arial Arise are just too chunked out. They need to top themselves off. Good shots there from Quick's Faded. The Victor play has been sort of premier throughout this game, so hats off to him here. 15 seconds left. I mean, I guess this set deserves a 0.7 mid fight because it seems like that's what we're steamrolling towards.
5 seconds left onto the clock. The overtime is going to be almost running out. Void Grip as well. He's swinging. He wants to win. He wants to do it. Seismic Crash as well. Overpower to follow so many things up. The question is, they traded out 2-2. Who's going to end up winning this? The Hunter's Mark goes through as well. Make sure they can burn down the comp, but it's not going to be enough, man. Who's going to be able to stand on the point now? Double kill for Willow is going to net them this round defended successfully, and there it is, 3-3. We're in the last round. Barely any ultimates are up now.
Snuck that one
yeah,
through.
Yeah,
oh my.
Yeah, he snuck the barrage. I think he actually he used the barrage. He called it
and then
before
the wall
came up.
Popped up. I mean,
exactly.
it was these little tiny quick moments where otherwise might not have worked out quite as well. Lots of interesting slash lines to look at. I mean, Alex Kidd on the Inara, I mean, 3-11 and 12 is not a pretty looking slash line, but you also have to consider like the scenario that Inara is in, where they're basically saying, please go stand on the point for us and take in all of the damage from this Victor, from this Khan, from this Barrack with a Genos mark behind him. I mean, despite having hunting party, Genos is so strong, and the damage dealers that Ehrenmanner have are so strong that 4 of the top 5 damage dealers in this game are all red, and that's going to be the best way you could start if you're Ehrenmanner.
Ehrenmanner's had enough. They're sick of this. My goodness, running down Paraslay. He's trying to make sure he can get out of there, but the question is, can you let them breathe, please, for something, for anything? They're doing what it is that they can. Don't quite know if they'll be able to close this one out. 36% on the point for Ehrenmanner. Looking pretty good for them.
Need to zone, but they need to zone carefully here. Don't want to give up too much on the back end, and they're doing a good job. They still have Dome Shield as well. That's going to prevent too many touches coming in from Arial or Eyes. One last chance to maybe save the game.
Yeah, he's getting lit up. Barrack being forced to make sure that he used those boosts to skyrocket himself out of there. The Heelys are too strong. He has actually managed to make it out just in time. Inara does go down, but not before. The Crossfire finds 2 individuals. Dome Shield going down as well. Make sure they zone this out. But so many members of Ehrenmanner are dying, dude. Who's going to end up winning this fight, folks?
This is absurd. This is so back and forth. I've never seen this. Arial Arise now come back in. The sudden aggression retakes the mid from Ehrenmanner. They had 93%. Now everyone's getting swiped. Is the Victor going to win the day? Is the Tyra going to come out on top? As of right now, looks like Arial Arise. But the last time I guessed, I was way wrong. Now this is one final fight to maybe end the game.
The overpower to make sure he gets Makoa actually does end up getting the kill. Now that we've traded 1 for 1, we're going to see who's really going to be the ones that end up winning this, especially now the kills are coming up on the side of red. Paraslay has to back off. He goes down too, but so does the Tyra. They are going to be able to close this one out, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, Grover has to actually make sure he's out of the situation. Ehrenmanner actually managed to win the game.
That was the most absurd ending to a game I've ever,
oh my God.
Nobody wanted to win that one. No, they did. Actually, it was actually kind of the opposite. Both teams trying very hard to win, and you get a fun ending like that where one team so in control, and at the last possible second, the enemy team is going to force back and do it so successfully that they sweep Ehrenmanner off the map. But at the end of the day, it's the third retake onto the point that ends up being the final retake in this case, and in an apparently very close matchup. You know, Flashpoint kind of reigned supreme in this region, but this is your maybe 2 versus 3 matchup here, and it was a very, very fun one to watch.
The damage taken, 201,000 damage. Makoa 8. This is why he can hold up so well. One of the best tanks in the entire game. You always see him banned. One of the strongest frontliners there is, right next to Inara, Barrack, which are, once again, those are like top 3 frontliners in the game currently.
Good bit of damage taken from their side over there. 17, 7, and 30. I mean, this is a long Bright Marsh game. You're going to see lots of double digits on the final scoreboard here. I love the way Ernest played in this set today, not just this game, but kind of across the board. I think he deserved, you know, certainly the win for the way that he played. Quick's faded as well, almost eclipsing that 20 kill mark, but 145k damage, 4.5 KDA on the Willow. The shots were good. There were so many fights that went back and forth because of Ernest coming back into them at the right time, doing a good job of zoning. And a beautiful dead zone there. It goes on to 4. I mean, the healing so mitigated. Grover has to back off. Now we're starting to see why Willow maybe picked into a Grover. I mean,
yeah.
it's very good at mitigating a lot of what he's trying to do. So there were bright spots, honestly, though, from Arial Arise in that game. You saw both teams playing their compositions properly,
Right.
where you saw moments of Arial Arise getting aggressive, taking the fight to Ehrenmanner, and then also moments of Ehrenmanner fighting back, pulling themselves back, kiting backwards, doing the damage, and then Arial Arise doing it again, and then Ehrenmanner doing it again, and then back and forth a few more times, and that 0.7, like I said, that's maybe what we all deserved at the end of the day.
I think it's more of a praise to the fact that blasters are really powerful. Not just Willow, but all of them overall. However, Ehrenmanner does end up netting it 3-2 against Arial Arise. Right after this break, we'll get right into the next set.
Skillshot, the official production partner of the Paladins Console League.